It's time for Intelligent Machines. Our guest this week, Richard Gingras, just retired as Vice President of News at Google. We'll talk about the future of news, AI slop, and more, plus a show that just never ends, but it's full of goodness, including sinkholes and evil clowns and all sorts of stuff. Cheese. There's cheese. Next. Stay here.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Intelligent Machines with Paris Martineau and Jeff Jarvis, episode 825, recorded Wednesday, June 25th, 2025, the evil clown of Middletown. It's time for Intelligent Machines, the show where we talk about the latest in AI, robotics, and all those little smart thingamajiggers surrounding us everywhere. There's one behind me, one there, with the wonderful professor of journalistic innovation at the Emeritus at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York, a.k.a. Jeff Jarvis. Hello, Jeff.
Hello there, boss. How are you?
Now at the fine SUNY Stony Brook and the Montclair State University. Author of What Would Google Do? Private Parts. I'm going back in time now,
Oh, you're
Jeff.
going back there. Yeah, no.
The Gutenberg parenthesis.
I didn't bring over
The web we weave. Oh, there they are. Also here, newly wired Paris Martineau, who is sweltering in New York City.
Hello. It's a heat wave. We had multiple mini tornadoes in New York. A 50-foot tree fell in my backyard, taking out approximately five backyards.
Was a tree named Andrew Cuomo by any chance?
No, but that tree
Okay.
also did suffer a large blow to his ego and self this week. So, it's been a sweltering week in many ways.
Wow. Well, you've earned a beer, and I'm going to give you official dispensation. Given the heat, anytime the heat rises over 90 degrees, you can have a beer.
I took this out of the beer thing being like, yeah, it'll seem not obvious that I'm drinking a beer. And then I held it up to the camera. I was like, no,
That's
this is
a beer.
significant. This is a
I
beer.
recognize a beer when I
I'm
see
having
one.
exactly one beer. It's very hot outside. I'm going to be
That's
entirely
fine.
normal
I
about
am
it.
completely happy.
Great.
We have a great guest. He's actually been on the show before. Richard Gingras is here. Last time when Richard was on, he was Vice President of News at Google. He is no longer in that position. He has moved on. Richard, well,
He's emeritus now.
Emeritus, just moved on. Welcome. It's great to have you, Richard.
It's good to be here. In fact, I am consuming a bit of artificial intelligence while we speak.
Is that computronium you have in there?
It looks like more like cider than beer, but
Richard is a specialist at
no, it's
cocktails,
good
you should
bourbon.
know.
a good bourbon. Oh, now we're talking. All right. So far, so good. We're half the panel's drunk, and the rest of us are catching
Are
up.
old.
So, Jeff, why don't you introduce Richard and tell us a little bit about him? Because I know you know him well.
So last time Richard and I were on the same flight, the flight attendant came up and said, "Oh, you're brothers." Because
Okay,
we
I
kinda-
wasn't going to say it because I thought it sounded offensive just because you're both white men with glasses, white hair, and beards, but I've been thinking it the entire time, especially because you guys are right next to each other on my Zoom screen, and I'm like, it's like looking in a strange mirror.
It is. So we are brothers of a different mother and father. Richard has been
Brothers all
around
the same.
our industry for a long time. Headed up Salon.
Loved Salon, by the way. Still love Salon. Yeah.
On early internet access service called which one was it, Richard? Not Excite.
Oh God! I mean, Excite. Before
Excite.
that, eWorld.
eWorld.
Yeah.
Apple's very interesting kind of. It's almost skeuomorphic village-based internet service. I liked eWorld actually.
That's right.
And then for the last how many years, Richard?
E-guy.
At Google?
You're the e-guy.
About 15.
So 15 years at Google as vice president of news.
Wow.
And has had all kinds of things there. And has been a really great friend of journalism and news. starting the Google News Initiative, starting all kinds of other.
Well, the Trust Project, really.
The Trust Project outside of Google as well.
Still involved in some of this, yes?
And Google Newsgeist, which is when we journalism wonks get together to complain about the state of the world and try to fix it, and all kinds of things. And so I'm delighted that Richard's here, and now that he's no longer officially an employee of Google, he's unleashed. And so we can talk about anything. No comms there breathing down his neck.
When was your last day? Was this a recent departure?
My last day officially was last Friday.
Wow. So you're fresh off the Google boat. How does it feel?
Fresh. It feels absolutely fine. I miss my admin.
That's a very googly response.
In some ways, you're leaving at kind of a critical juncture because news is now faced, I think, with even more existential threats than ever, thanks to AI and AI slop. And yet, it's more important. We need news. We need reliable, authoritative news more than ever.
Authoritarian, you were going to say.
Well, we have authoritarian. We need more authoritative news than ever. What is your prognosis for the future of news?
I mean, I think we can have a very good future of news, but I think it really requires all of us in the profession to really step back, which the profession has been kind of reluctant to do over the years, and really kind of assess the situation and see what we can do to work ourselves forward. And I think there's a lot we can and should do, whether that's with regard to re-earning trust, or understanding how best we evolve what news can be in this different digital environment, figuring out savvy business models that don't rely on philanthropy, figuring out smart uses of AI, and there are many smart uses of AI. So I have great reasons for optimism, but we have to take those steps forward. And by the way, I'm no longer at Google, but I'm very actively involved in several endeavors that are very much targeted on exactly what I'm talking about.
Can you tell us about those?
Yes, two. One is an effort which Jeff is aware of. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, I, with a few others, put together a global research institute that I think, likes to think of itself as a think tank for the role of journalism in society, the role of the free press and the open internet in society. And it looks at everything from public policy questions around the world, which are very challenging as governments recognize the impact of the internet and want to control it, to how do we think through matters of trust in AI and business models. So that's one area. Marty Barron's on the board, Maria Ressa, headed by the executive director is Amy Mitchell, who for 2 decades headed research at Pew. So great people trying to help people with more additional thinking and research on those questions. And then the second, which I'm very excited about, is in the area of local news, where I've been there too, working hard to figure out how do we rethink what local news can be in a community. And a singular company that I've identified in my work around the world is a company out of Canada called Village Media, which is doing that extraordinarily well, rethinking every component. How do we strengthen the communities? How do we drive their engagement? And does so commercially, sustainably, entirely with local advertising. And so I've become chairman of the board of Village Media, and we'll work with them to expand that model. And there too, great reasons to be hopeful, but it does require stepping back and saying, let's kind of take this down to the studs and rebuild it with new thinking appropriate to our time and place.
Is there a trust crisis? Because I think those of us who consume news increasingly, even with the Journal of Record, I know Jeff is less than happy with the New York Times, feel like maybe we can't trust what we're reading, that there's an angle, or, we have a wonderful, speaking of local newspaper in town that was family run for years, has now been purchased by a private equity firm. And immediately my reaction is, well, I guess I can't trust it anymore.
Yes, we do have a huge trust issue with news, and not surprisingly, nor is it new for that matter. You're right. I mean, if you kind of look at the history of how things evolved, one of the key, I think, things that we miss in understanding the challenge of our current world is to simply recognize that, with the increased propagation of the ability for people to communicate with each other, to express themselves, the expansion of the marketplace for publishing and information, it becomes more difficult, it becomes more fragmented, becomes more polarized. It didn't start with the internet. I mean, in truth, as Jeff knows, it started with Gutenberg. But if you look at, electronic communications, look what happened with television and cable in the United States, and you started to see more partisan news outlets, right? So, why would we even wonder whether there's a trust issue in news? In fact, my core concern about it is often people say when they hear that, you'll hear journalists say, well, we need more media literacy to tell people that they can trust journalism. And I go, but that's absurd. Journalism isn't monolithic. There are great sources, there are bad sources. So how do they identify them? And how do the sources themselves, how do news institutions, again, rethink our approach to re-earn that trust? I think there's a tremendous amount of arrogance in journalism. There's a tremendous amount of assumption that we know the answers when the answers aren't necessarily knowable. And frankly, the audiences are smart enough to call us on that. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done there, and we have to stop pointing fingers at others as solutions to our problems.
The days of Edward R. Murrow and the Tiffany Network, news was seen as a prestige product. And the fact that news lost money was not a cause for concern. CBS made plenty of money in other places. I mean, Jack Benny or whatever it was, Milton Berle. But I think more and more, we're in an environment where people like Jeff Bezos are coming in to rescue the Washington Post. It looks like news is not, because it's not fundamentally profitable. Warner Brothers is spinning off CNN because they see it as a sinking ship. Same with MSNBC. I think the crisis is news is no longer a prestige product, and nobody is willing to fund it.
I would push back a little bit on that. I think that the problem isn't that news is fundamentally unprofitable and no one wants to fund it. I think it's just that mass market advertising supported media that's target audience is everyone that has a cell phone is a fundamentally flawed concept.
Yeah, we're going to get Henry Blodgett on, I think, in future weeks. I'll ask him about that. Well, that's a good question. Is news profitable? Can news be profitable? Should it be profitable?
It certainly can be profitable, and people are proving that. I mean, I think one of the dynamics that's wrong. I mean, Village Media, the company I mentioned, is profitable in every one of its markets. Obviously the New York Times is profitable. So it's not by any means impossible for there to be commercially successful sources. I think one of the problems we have in this space is, given the disruption, you have both the legacy players on one side who have been, frankly, almost irresponsibly incapable of innovating in this period. And particularly now, they're owned by hedge funds. They don't have any particular interest in the news business outside of harvesting the assets. And then on the emerging side, sadly, you have a lot of folks who are trying to do the right noble thing, but they've been led to believe there is no commercial future. They've led to believe that philanthropy will save their bacon, as it were, and allow them to continue to do news that they always did, and be successful. And that's incorrect. But again, it's not. We have to kind of stop with that notion that it can't be successful and start going deep with, quite frankly, rigorous business tactics to say, well, where's the opportunity in the market? What's the right business model that'll fit what I'm trying to do?
Go back to Leo's question about AI. He asked the challenge of determining authority from slop. So hit both sides of that coin of where the potential risks are with AI, but where the potential uses and benefits are.
I personally think there's just tremendous opportunity in AI for us as individuals, and I think for news organizations. Is there risk? Of course there is. As there has been with any media environment. I think with AI, it's going to come down to questions like, well, what source of AI knowledge are you going to? Because there'll be many, because there are many. Now here too, and one interesting dynamic, I was going to mention this back to when you were talking about the Tiffany networks. One of the interesting things back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, when you didn't have the proliferation of cable outlets, was these news organizations had to recognize that they couldn't just address a certain cohort of the audience. They were addressing everyone because they had huge audiences. They didn't want to piss off one segment of the audience. And so they had a greater inclination to try to be impartial, which frankly helps lead to trust and respect across the spectrum, right? I think in a similar fashion now, when I look at AI, like I'm much more inclined to trust the larger entities, including the Googles, because frankly, they've got an audience of billions of people and they need the trust of all those people. They need to do it well. What I am concerned about is obviously the models coming out of nowhere, coming out of dark states that clearly can be misused to do harm and will.
Tools for journalists. I mean, when we go back, I'm finishing my Lanotype book right now, and technology first affected the composing room, and it was seen by the publishers only as a way to cut costs, and that's very familiar for today. They're using it to cut costs. They're using it without innovation. What are some of the most innovative things you've seen news organizations do? What should they be doing? What could they be doing that they're not now? Or that they are now? Somebody's doing good work with
yeah. Well, first of all, I think we need to be comfortable with the language that we use. And I think any publisher who goes to his newsroom and starts talking about efficiencies is not going to get the desired result. Right? That sounds like cost cutting. When I talk to newsrooms about it, I talk about, are you taking advantage of the superpowers that you can have by leveraging these capabilities? Right? In fact, Gina Chua at Semaphore told me that she once was confronted by her newsroom that was reluctant to use the AI technology that she was bringing into the newsroom. They were concerned about their jobs. And she said to them, look, my number 1, 2, and 3 priorities is to do great journalism, and I'll use every tool available to help me do that. I do not have a priority that's about saving your jobs. You obviously want to save your careers. And if you want to do that, then you need to adapt and adopt the capabilities of this technology so you too can have the superpowers and be better than you are today.
We should have Gina on. Gina does great work at Semaphore. She did a thing where she got a what do you call it? The people you use on Amazon to do tasks, Mechanical Turk.
Mechanical Turk.
So she did a Mechanical Turk, where she used models to look at reports of police brutality, and because they were in all different forms and all different structures, and there was no structure to the data to figure out, she got the models 2 years ago to figure out how to look at all these things and get a better count of what was happening around race and police brutality.
Yeah, we need to have a Palantir for journalists as opposed to a Palantir for government. I think
a Palantir for journalists is a phrase I never thought I'd hear. Listen, I guess I'm not opposed.
This is a secret that exists, but we're not allowed to know.
This is what you were teaching, Jeff, right? Is the journalist as data scientist?
It's a lot of it.
Well, and to your question, I mean, there is actually no facet of the journalistic profession that can't be improved and enhanced by the use of AI. There's none. And some of it is simple things. Does it help you do research? Does it help you ask questions that you might otherwise not be comfortable asking? When I write things today, one of the things I do is feed it into one of the models and say, give me positive and negative criticism of this piece. Help me understand if I'm phrasing it properly. Am I making the argument correctly? But if you take it into the newsroom, I mean, the point about data, for instance, one of the projects at Google that I was most proud of was when we did, or the team in Israel that is still working on this stuff, when we built Pinpoint. This was 5 or 6 years ago, and we were calling it machine learning. It wasn't doing the generative part, but it was all AI, which was, how do I analyze, 100,000 documents that I otherwise wouldn't even be able to analyze manually, to understand what's in those documents, to organize them and structure them based on known entities and dates and locations and so on and so forth. Help me find the needles in the haystack. That's even more capable today with Gen AI. So, it can obviously help you do the investigations that you otherwise would not have even attempted. It can help you monitor beats. It can help you monitor sources of streams of data to understand anomalies. We did a project at Google that was trying to look at, could we geofence search queries to detect stories that otherwise we might not understand? And the example for that, because we knew it was true, was the Flint water crisis. If we had looked into search queries, and we did 6-8 months before the water crisis, you saw queries that said, my water smells bad, my water tastes bad. Now you put those signals in front of thoughtful reporters, and they go, oh, maybe there's something we should be digging into on the state of the water supply in Flint. Right? That's powerful stuff. And that's just, these are just two examples out of many with regard to the newsroom. So, I think any newsroom that ignores the capabilities of AI is a newsroom that's ignoring its future.
Of course, there's the flip side of that coin. And if I were in the news business, I might worry about it. Oh, I guess I am, aren't I? I am worried about it, which is there increasingly individuals are going to be able to create their own personalized news feeds. And we're already seeing this with tools that like Perplexity that I like to use, which is kind of disintermediating the original source work, taking them out of the equation and giving me the results. I see a future, we talked about this with Nikita Roy, of personalized news and of individuals doing that. Doesn't that just put more pressure on journalistic organizations? Takes them out of the equation in some cases, except as source materials.
Look,
source materials is very important.
Yeah, but it doesn't pay, right?
Yeah.
It's the most expensive part of the whole thing. And if you're not getting the hits,
that's memory lane.
Several things there. Look, throughout the history of journalism, even before digital and electronic, you would browse an array of sources and titles before you dug in.
Right.
You'd go to the newsstand and browse for a half hour. Maybe you'd buy one magazine. Maybe you'd buy none at all.
Right.
That's an important and ongoing dynamic. Having personalized news feeds, I think, simply helps people get exposed to more stuff. My real issue with the personalized news feeds, and it's inevitable and I can't stop it, is it giving you a siloed view of the reality and not exposing you to things that you should see. Like when I was running Google News, I wanted to make sure that we didn't just have the personalized For You tab, but we had a tab which I wanted to be the default, which was, here is our sense of what news is across the country right now, unpersonalized.
Talk about the early days of Google News, and because the reaction to it, the news industry wasn't sure what to do with it. It was a 20% project for somebody else, but what were the design?
They had the same fears, right? This fear of being, removed from the equation, of Google intermediating.
Yeah, they did, and we can talk about that. But first back to the history of Google News, and that was just a bit before my time with Krishna Bharat. That came out of the shadows of 9/11, right? It was literally in that period after 9/11, and Krishna was one who said, I want to understand how people are looking at this story from around the world, right? How do I do that? And that was really the birth of Google News. How could we take and use algorithms and k-means clustering to identify sources of coverage on a given topic from any place in the world and give me an option to consume those perspectives? And that's a powerful thing, continues to be a powerful thing. I think the challenge with the news industry in this regard has been, just largely self-defeating. Because what I've always said was, and it is absolutely true, is that Google News, Google Search, these are effectively the biggest newsstands on earth that, by the way, publishers don't have to pay to be on. Right? So you're putting the content before many more people. You're giving them more options to dig in. And they do dig in, but it is a competitive environment. I think what publishers often don't want to acknowledge about the internet was that it introduced massive competition at every dimension. They no longer controlled their distribution. They no longer controlled the advertising market, where they could basically hold up the 3 local department stores for whatever rates they wanted to ask. And at least as important, consumers had many, many places to go for the information that they used to get from the newspaper. I mean, it's simply what I always say is like, the newspaper in Dallas in 1985 was the internet of that community.
Yeah.
Now we have an internet, and it's a news node on the internet. And I don't need to go to the Dallas Morning News to find out where the movies are playing or what the stock quotes are. That's all, we don't do that anymore.
It's clearly a benefit to the consumer of news, especially if you're a smart consumer. How does it benefit the publishers, the creators of the news? Because they're bearing the expense.
It benefits them to the extent that they are truly willing to dig deep and understand the new marketplace and figure out what products can they build that will fit that market, right? I mean, to me, one of the unfortunate problems of the legacy news industry in the last 30 years of the internet was somehow not recognizing that their success was going to have to be based on how the new marketplace worked. Not their hope that somehow the internet would twist its head around and respect their products for what they were and make sure they were as successful as they always were, right? So it's not like we're not finding successes in publishing in the new environment. We are. But we're finding it from those who are willing to be innovative about finding the place in the market, build products to suit, understand user behaviors enough to present that content to them in the form in which they're willing to accept it.
Give us some examples of people who are doing it right.
Well, I mean, in a certain sense, I'd have to look and say the New York Times is getting it right.
Right.
We can find reason to criticize any outlet out there, but have they been smart about growing that business? They didn't get it immediately, right? They spent 15 years before they did the innovation report. And then they got really thoughtful about how they do it. They're thoughtful about how they drive subscriptions, thoughtful about how they structure their pricing and offers to get those subscribers on board. Mark Thompson will tell you about very interesting steps along that road that he would not have, predicted. But once they kind of really turned to innovation, they started to figure these things out. The company I mentioned in Canada at the local level is stunningly innovative at how they approach being a news outlet. And not only in providing news, but creating opportunities from engagement. They've created now and are rolling out in their markets a local community interest network, basically a very nicely designed Reddit for local. It's not about following people and posting into the bliss, into the morass. It's about following topics that I'm interested in. I'm a woodworker. I like the local music scene. With curated hosts. How do I engage with people in my community, both virtually and in the real world? That's powerful, and people like that. But that's innovation. That's recognizing that it's not just producing articles and somehow sticking them somewhere and hoping that enough people read them.
Is there room for more than one? I mean, one of the complaints is that, there's one New York Times. We used to have a daily newspaper in every city. Is there room for more than one?
Is there room for more than one newspaper in a city?
Well, not clearly not. But I mean, is there room for more than one? Maybe a newspaper in the country. It feels like, you could point to the New York Times, but then for every New York Times, there's a dozen failed local newspapers.
Well, yeah, but you're talking.
Is it they're doing it wrong, right? Or is it that there isn't room for them? No,
but you have to, the information marketplace is not a singular dimension. It's many dimensions. Right. The national environment is quite distinct from the local environment, which is quite distinct from vertical environments. But if you look at those individually, obviously the New York Times has been very successful as a national vehicle. Are there room for competition for other national vehicles? Certainly. In fact, we'd probably see more of that if some of them hadn't stumbled of late.
Right.
But there's certainly opportunity there. And the models there, and the other thing I quibble about is people who say we need to experiment with business models. The business models are known, right? At the national level, it's clearly going to be largely driven by subscription. And they're doing that, effectively. What, if they hit 10 million? I think they have, or they're very close to it. So that's very possible. You look at the verticals, I can tell you around the world, there are very successful verticals in everything from politics to various industry sectors. Politics is a particularly lucrative one.
Yeah.
You know, look at 24/7 in Brasilia, for instance, or even Village Media's Trillium in Ontario. You know, those are subscription offers. They have high value content, and it works quite well. I think at the local level there too, it's very different. And there is where I feel, and where Village has proven, that advertising can still work. And it can still work because at the community level, merchants want to be able to drive awareness of what they're doing to the people in the market they serve. And by the way, information at that level, at that community level, advertising at that community level is information.
That's been our experience, not as a local entity, but as a niche entity.
Yeah.
It's very similar, right? And we are able to succeed and survive because of that.
I've been doing some other pro bono work that involved doing a massive study of the news consumption habits in Chicago, local news consumption habits in Chicago. And there were two key learnings in that. One was that people's information needs are proportionate to physical proximity. Meaning, I want to know what's going on in my neighborhood far more than I want to know what's going on in the metropolitan area, right? In Chicago, for instance, the only topic of broad metropolitan interest is the Bears, is sports, right? Because otherwise, it's all local. And in fact, if you think through that, the metropolitan dailies were the ones that were most vulnerable, because none of them were any longer relevant from us as a source of national news.
Right.
And they weren't local enough to be relevant to the communities within the metropolitan area they served.
Right.
And the last interesting thing in that survey was we asked a question at the end. We said, what motivates you to consume local news? And we gave people a bunch of options they could check. Number one was save money. Right? People want to know where are the deals in the community? Did that new restaurant that open, is that something my family can afford? Right. Number two is health and wellness. Number three was, what's going on in my community? Number four was entertainment. What can I do this weekend? What's going on in the community park? But if you look at it from that level and analyze it from that level, then you can begin to see the opportunities that you otherwise would have ignored if you're following the meme that somehow there's no profitable future in news, right? I mean, in fact, and I'm sorry to go on here, but, you know, the one challenge among the emerging players in the United States is often they were founded by journalists coming out of newsrooms, very noble. What they want to do is the serious accountability journalism, but they don't understand the business. They think philanthropy will support them forever. And as I joke, they would rather eat worms than go to a local merchant and sell an ad.
That's a good point. I like it.
So in your 15 years at Google, I know that it's always been an artificial intelligence machine learning company, but there was a distinguished moment that to the outside world, Google became an AI company. And I always saw a change. What was that like on the inside? When did you see that we're not just a search company, we're not just an ad company, we're going to present ourselves as an AI company?
Well, it was both gradual and sudden. You know, from my perspective anyways, where I sat, it was gradual along the way because we all knew, because Google is a very open and transparent company internally. At least it long has been. So you knew what was going on. You knew the work that Jeff Dean was doing with neural networks and machine learning and so on. And you knew this was something significant and big. And at the product level, again, we were doing things like Pinpoint. We were beginning to apply the technology, and we knew that it was big. But I think the big switch was, as you know, was Google being appropriately cautious given its size and position and the reputation it needed to be protect, was much more cautious about going out with a language model, right? And ChatGPT jumped out there first, even though it wasn't ready for prime time. But nonetheless, they did, and they obviously captured a fair amount of imagination. And that's what obviously triggered the next big shift at Google, which was, okay, they've dropped the flag. Now's the time for us to put every effort we can, every dollar we have, against becoming an AI company, an AI solutions company.
Because Google had its model.
Yeah.
What was the, was it shock that OpenAI went out there with something that was rough? Or was it a sense of there's a new company and we're already an old one? Or what was that reaction like?
I think it was more to the first than the latter. I think it was a bit of surprise. But then again, if you thought through it, I remember, when it happened, we were surprised because we had the models and they were testing the models and they knew that there were flaws. I mean, one of the things with language models is, besides the fact that, as you know, it's not just training the language model, it's developing all the necessary grounding that you need to put in place such that the language model is actually coming up with sound answers based on facts and authoritative content, right? A, that takes time. And B, there is no replacement for the big lab in testing. You just can't pose enough queries to know where the flaws are, right? Unfortunately, that only happens when you go out public. So ChatGPT did that. Now, it was also clear to me that, that was obviously a smart move on their part. They could take the risks. And more importantly, they knew that we could not take the risks. So kind of a slick move on their part.
It's a fascinating competitive story that has yet to be fully written, but will be, I'm sure, at some point. So I like your thought that national can be supported by subscription, local by advertising. I think that makes a lot of sense. We're a niche product, also advertising supported, although we're playing with subscriptions as well. And I mean, the information is proven, Wall Street Journal has proven that the subscription model for people who get value out of the content is very viable. People are willing to pay for something that's going to make them money, especially. So there are some models out there. I feel like AI slop is an avalanche that might be difficult to transcend for the few people who are doing it right. Maybe we do still have to get an intelligent news consumer.
Yeah, but at the same time that we're getting AI slop, we're getting increasingly capable AI systems, which can both counter that slop with quality content and can be used to detect and assess the slop that's out there. Sometimes we miss the point that they can use the AI language model to actually assess the AI language model.
Yeah. I think I know at the beginning you said we can't expect consumers to become better news consumers, but I think ultimately that's going to be a source of success for people, is the ability to find a way to get information, especially information outside their own filter bubble, and use it appropriately. And I think there's an opportunity for news there, but it does require kind of a more sophisticated reader. I hope they exist.
And I think, and by the way, I didn't say there was no hope in training consumers to do this. What I said was,
don't count on it.
Because it was rather pointed, was that don't think you can overcome the trust problem by teaching people that they should trust us. Right. I mean, when has it ever been effective for me to say, trust me?
Yeah,
when somebody says, trust me, I actually flip on the other side and say,
you
really?
Why are you saying that?
Yeah, so that's my point.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I mean, what I think is, to me, one of the extraordinary dynamic about language models that I keep coming back to, both in my own behavior and others, is the extraordinary value of non-judgmental learning. Is the fact that I can ask it questions that I would be embarrassed to ask others. One of the bits of research I looked at Google, we had done a lot of the early work on fact checks. And we were assessing, like, well, how effective were fact checks in different kind of environments, say a social network versus search. And one of the things that came out of that was on social networks, fact checks are not effective because basically you end up challenging the social construct of the user, right? You put up a fact check next to a post put up by your uncle and basically telling you your uncle was a fool.
Right.
You're going to kind of go into a defensive crouch.
Right.
But with search is a very private experience where you will go to search and ask it a question that you would not ask your spouse. And that's powerful.
Absolutely.
And I think that's true of language models in spades.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's true of all of us. I mean, I learn more faster today with language models than I ever did before because I can do that and I can keep probing. And it's easy to keep probing and easy to learn more. And, does that not have a powerful effect on our younger generations as they come forward?
Yeah.
If we give them any kind of reasonable guidance and make sure that they're actually going to answer engines that, are more likely to be authoritative, then what a wonderful thing. Because they not only get the knowledge, you stimulate them to want more of it.
Paris, you were...
I was going to say, I'm curious what your, daily AI, are there any AI tools that you find yourself going back to or any that are kind of in your weekly routine?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I mean, constantly.
Which ones?
And for very myriad
products
users.
do you like?
I'm primarily using the major ones. I use Gemini primarily. I use ChatGPT sometimes. I use it often just for comparison purposes. I'll do Claude, I'll do ChatGPT, I'll do Gemini just to see if they're particularly different in the answers they give. But
what sort of
these
questions
days,
are you typically asking on just anything?
Those are private, Paris.
Okay, I'm not asking you to any very specific things. I'm just curious.
I'll give you a couple of various ones. I mean, and again, some of these are completely mundane.
Yeah.
I was reading a book. I'm reading a book called Plato and the Tyrant. About the philosophers and Dionysus and the whole, that area, which sounds terribly intellectual, but it's actually quite interesting and fun. And, and I just wanted to understand, how are they writing these things? They had wax tablets and what scrolls existed? What were they on? And, I could go and say what were the scrolls in Syracuse that Dionysus was reading from? What were they made of? And I came back and told me papyrus, right? It would have taken me a long time to search for that. That's a simple thing. Two that I found really fun lately, not fun, but really satisfying. One is my youngest daughter just bought a house in Astoria, Queens. And it has a rental unit that they can put out. And I said to Gemini, prepare a manual for me for a first-time New York landlord.
Oh, wow.
And it came back with a wonderful 6-page comprehensive document saying, here are all the things you need to know and look into, right? How powerful is that? Secondly, recently I was in Norway, I had to speak at an event in Norway, and I decided I wanted to spend an extra 3 days renting a car, driving around with drones, because I do a lot of drone stuff, video stuff. And so I went to Gemini. It was a late decision. I said, I'm going to land in Oslo. I have 3 days. I want to stop in Bergen. I want to end up in Lillehammer. Please give me options for scenic drives. Give me 2 other places where I should spend the night. And by the way, I'm taking my drones. And it came back with just an extraordinarily helpful, detailed plan for me. I did the whole trip plan in about 90 minutes, including booking the hotels.
But you understand that information probably came from a variety of guides like Fodor's, and that those people who generated the information originally have been disenfranchised.
Well, yes and no. It is obviously learning from the collective knowledge that's been expressed out there. Fair enough.
We went through that when we put up Conde Nast Traveler online in 1997, where we were trying to cannibalize ourselves because others were going to.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are all kinds of interesting topics out of just that. right?
No, and as a consumer of information, this is a paradise, right? And this is, in fact, Google's mission to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. There is no better way to do it than these chat bots. It's been amazing. But I just worry about the people who create the information and what do they do? And I guess that's what we've been talking about is, as a consumer of information, I'm in heaven.
But now you get to hear from the restaurants,
for
the people
consumers
who actually live there.
to consider where that information came from so that we don't run out.
Sorry, I didn't mean to stop over you. But you also can now hear from 20 people who live in Lillehammer.
True.
As opposed to the person who goes through for 2 days.
It's not corporatized. It could very well be from real people. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, in a lot of this stuff, as it's collecting knowledge, it's not like, it's only going to Fodor's at all.
But that just means it's the cult of the amateur now, right? That it's right? No, because no professionals will do it anymore because there's no money in it.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I think it depends. And I think also in some of those areas, they obviously are putting in references to where this came from. You can click and go deeper and go to Rick Steves and so on and so forth. Right. Are we going to see winnowing of the publishing environment in certain areas? Certainly. But I'd also have to point out that the web has become a classic tragedy of the commons.
Right.
I mean, my kind of favorite example today is recipe queries. Right. You do a recipe query. I just want to find out, give me the recipe for cornbread. And I got a bunch of recipe sites that insist on giving me the history of the knife and the fork in corn and how the corn was ground. And, and
the author's personal relationship with corn.
Precisely. And the list of the ingredients is like a mile down after.
Well, that's because the recipes become commoditized.
I will say that's also Google's fault in the sense that those places are optimizing for Google to rank higher in the Google search results. But I suppose now they'll be optimizing to be included in an AI search. It's not.
Well, you're right and you're wrong. I mean, you say it's Google's fault. What they're playing off of was their recognition that Google, in assessing the quality of a site, values time on site. And that's why they're doing that, right? It gives them time on site. And by the way, it gives them a whole lot more real estate to show ads.
Or ads, yep.
All right. Now, of course, Google isn't stupid either. Right, because we'll come up with other more detailed metrics that kind of give us a sense of abandonment. And in the recipe category, you'd probably get to know the math that says, all of these people are going to suffer a mile-long scroll. And as soon as they get a half mile down, we're going to recognize that's not really good time on site at all.
Right. No, and that's why I use a recipe tool to extract the recipe so I don't have to read the prose. And I no longer see any of it. Final question, because we got to
be though on recipes, if I might. Where might we be 2 years from now? Yes, I'll get the pound cake recipe right up at top. You'll see a winnowing, so there are far less of these nonsense sites just looking to scam off the internet. But if I do want, other variations on the pound cake recipe, those results will be there, and hopefully they'll be the remaining sites that actually have built loyal audiences.
Well, in fact, for my sourdough recipes, I found a site that I've really found to trust, and they have a subscription, and I'm subscribed to it. So it is. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. There is an option.
You're subscribing to a sourdough recipe
site. The Perfect Loaf. It's very good.
So it has other bread.
Many
recipes other than sourdough.
But they're mostly sourdough.
But where you found your bagel recipe?
Yes, as a matter of fact. And so it was worth it. So one of the things that has come up, and of course you've got New York Times suing OpenAI, you've got Disney now suing Midjourney, and we've talked about this, is it seems likely that their real end game in all of this is to get licensing fees. Where do you stand on the idea of AI licensing news and information?
Well, so first of all, I thought the results of the Anthropic suit, which came out yesterday, were quite smart and what I had hoped would occur.
Yeah, the judge basically said it's okay. It's reading books. You have the right to read.
As long as you acquire them properly, then it's fair use.
That's right. It's fair use.
It wasn't legal to store them, but it was legal to read.
It wasn't legal to take them when they weren't bought.
Pirated, right?
Yeah. It wasn't about storage. It was the fact that they were pirated.
Right.
But obviously confirmed that we have a right to learn, and the computers we use have a right to learn.
Right.
So, when it comes to copyright, I'm very much in the camp of Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson was the creator of his day, right? Wrote the Declaration of Independence, was a great inventor.
Wrote a Bible without so much God in it. Yes.
Right. And he said that patents and copyright was an insult to an advanced civilization.
Oh, wow.
That he understood within a practical degree, it made sense to reward the creator, but ultimately you needed to reward the society with the knowledge. So, he would roll over in his grave when you look at copyright and patent today and see that on the one hand, drugs get 7 years and authors get life of the author plus 70.
Yeah.
Nothing's going into the public domain. So, we wisely, I hope we won't see copyright change such that we can continue to learn, we can glean the facts for the benefit of everyone. I think the other thing we need to recognize is that all creativity is derivative.
That's right.
We learn from people before us. So I find it kind of amusing when you hear of a well-known, hugely popular millionaire novelist complaining about LLMs learning from his work. And I want to go, well, wait a second. Are you writing checks on a regular basis to the Tolstoy Family Foundation?
Right.
What about your high school English teacher? Right? You didn't come born into this world as a successful novelist. It's derivative. There are 9 classic story types that all of you work off of all the time. What means that somehow you get to own one?
Yeah.
So, we need to be smart about copyright. Will there be licensing? To your point, there will be licensing for grounding, but I think it's going to depend very much on the type of content you're talking about. And does it have, does it have particular value because it's not easily found? Does it have particular value because it can be applied to something that will generate further value? So to your point about travel queries as an example, right? Google understands the value of a travel query quite well. And a travel query is worth a whole lot more than a news query. So in coming up with advanced solutions of using AI to satisfy people's travel needs, I can assure you that if there's a need for proprietary content or content from Fedoras or content from, those who do mass, aggregation of hotel availabilities and so on, that will get licensed because it makes sense to do so. But in other areas, it will make much less sense to do so. In areas of news, when I look at it from Google's perspective, where we're always being challenged for bias or presumably having an editorial perspective, is, it was always in our best defense to present a diverse array of sources and let the user decide. So I think with LLMs, we would be unwise to give fulsome, detailed answers without noting the various perspectives that are coming from others.
It reassures people too. It adds to trust. Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah.
I always believe that, to me, journalism is giving people the information they need to be informed citizens. I always felt that our role at Google was to give people the tools and point them to the sources of information such that they could be informed citizens, and do that in an assiduously apolitical fashion, which is the way it has to be done. So, I think, frankly, a lot of the focus on AI in those regards has to be like, how do we hone impartial language? I think news organizations should be thinking about that as well. But I don't want to divert from the licensing point. My last point on the licensing is when I talk to publishers, particularly news publishers, as I go say, yeah, there may be licensing, but if you think that there's a golden pot of cash at the end of the LLM rainbow, then you're wrong.
Really?
Because, first of all, the news content doesn't have much commercial value. We're in an extremely competitive environment with multiple answer engines, and I can assure you the margins are not going to be found in the category of news.
Interesting. Richard, it's been such a pleasure. We've overstayed our welcome, but I thank you for giving us some extra time. Richard Gingras, you're not retired. Shouldn't use the word retired. Former Emeritus Vice President of News at Google. Very good. I'd love to have you back soon. I really appreciate your thoughts. And I think the balance is fantastic because I think on the one hand, we all as users of news have a lot to gain, but we don't want to put news out of business either because that's important too. So there's got to be some balanced way of doing it.
I very much appreciate that. And, as I said, I'm not done because obviously we've got some significant challenges in front of us, but I do see solutions. I do see constructive paths.
Good.
And I'm eager and willing to work with anyone, frankly, who recognizes that. But we just have to stop pointing fingers and say, everything would be like, oh, if social networks didn't exist, we wouldn't have the political problems we have today. That's a misreading of our world and of the nature of media.
And of the nature of human beings. I agree 100%. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
Really appreciate your time.
See you around.
Great to see you again. Thank you. When we come back, more intelligent machine news. This portion of Intelligent Machines brought to you by Storyblock. Now, this is intelligent. If you've ever, and I know Paris has, and I know Jeff has, ever worked with those clunky enterprise-grade content management systems that just are so painful, slow, and you can't make any changes to the layout without developer support, even for the smallest update. And if you're trying to move fast, that's a nightmare. Whether you're in marketing, content creation of any kind. Well, Storyblock is the future. It changes all of that. Unlike those monolithic content management systems, Storyblock, this is really clever. We did this with our site too. It's headless. Okay. It completely decouples your back end from your front end. Developers can build in any framework. That's the front end, React, Astro, Vue, whatever you want. It can be light, nimble. Marketers get to use this incredible intuitive visual editor to create and update content. You'd have to file dev tickets. And by the way, because this is such a robust back end, Storyblock scales. Whether you're a freelancer or part of a global enterprise, you're going to get the benefits of a global CDN with AWS data centers in the US, in Europe, and Asia. It is literally built for performance at scale. It is so enterprise ready. They've got all the features enterprises want: role-based access control, of course, enterprise SLAs. You get top-tier security. That's becoming more important nowadays. It's all the things the Fortune 500s demand. One global e-commerce giant switched to Storyblock and cut content update cycles from weeks to hours. Another major brand empowered marketing to launch campaigns independently, freeing up the devs for bigger projects. See, Storyblock has an API-first approach, so your content loads fast anywhere in the world. You can have better UX, higher engagement, improved SEO, and that real-time visual editor, so sweet. Marketers will see exactly what their content's going to look like before publishing. No more endless back and forth over minor tweaks. And that's a win all around. Developers get fewer interruptions. Marketers get more autonomy. They get more of what they want. It's a win-win. If you're an agency, oh man, Storyblock offers multi-client workspaces with flexible permissions and seamless collaboration tools so you can manage multiple projects without disrupting development workflows. So I think you can see whether you're a startup, an enterprise, or an agency juggling multiple clients, Storyblock gives you the power and flexibility you need. I want you to try it today. Storyblock.com/TwittTV-25. And use the code TWIT25. TWIT listeners get 20% off for 3 months on Growth and Growth Plus plans. That's storyblock.com/TWITTV-25. The offer code TWIT25 with 20% off for the first 3 months on Growth and Growth Plus plans. STORYBLOK.com/TWITTV-25. And again, the offer code TWIT25. Thank you, Storyblock, for supporting the show. It's funny, we were talking on Sunday. Jason Calacanis was on TWiT, and he's an investor
You allowed that? How many
Actually,
punches did you throw? Did you break 1 or 2 computer screens?
No, it was, you know what?
So 3?
He's got a bad rap. He's a nice guy. I've always liked Jason.
Whose fault is that?
I think he's a nice guy. Anyway, he's an investor in this, created by humans. It's an AI rights licensing platform for books, sponsored by the Authors Guild. But I think it's interesting.
It's called created by humans. I thought you were describing it as created by humans.
No, it's literally created by humans.ai.
Okay, yeah, that.
But he did say something interesting, and it was funny because this was before the Anthropic decision came out. He said, no, the courts are going to absolutely uphold the copyright of these publishers. And in fact, I said, because we've had Kathy Gellis on so many times, I've said, remember that right to read, the First Amendment? And in fact, that's what happened. A judge has backed
this constantly.
Yeah. Well, you said something also interesting, which is there isn't a gold mine in these AIs. So these dreams of a gold mine in licensing
there is
fees.
For big publishers who get bought out so they don't litigate or legislate. But that doesn't do anything to actually buy content
for the rest
training.
Right.
It doesn't do anything for the rest of the ecosystem.
Right.
I mean, in Anthropic, they bought literally millions of dollars of books.
So this is what happened. They bought books and scanned them. There was a lawsuit brought against
They'd only
Anthropic
just done that.
By 3 authors, including Andrea Bartz, who accused it of stealing her work to train Claude. Judge William Alsup, a name you will recognize. These guys, it's funny. Is it like there are 5 judges in the whole country? They all seem to get, I don't know.
They've got a really busy schedule.
He said, and this is important, Anthropic's use, he defended that this was fair use. Anthropic's use of the author's books was not just transformative, which is one of the tests for fair use, exceedingly transformative. They don't copy the text. They tokenize it and save a version that's not even human readable.
The important point I think he made was, yes, in a sense you could say it memorizes it, but in tokenizing it, there's software between that repository and the queries.
Right.
It's not a direct recall.
They were facing a potentially up to $150,000 per copyrighted book. Now, this is where they did get in trouble. They also hold 7 million pirated books in a central library. Judge Alsup wrote, like any reader aspiring to be, I love this. This is exactly what Richard was saying. Like any reader aspiring to be a writer, Anthropic's LLMs trained upon works not to race ahead and replicate or supplant them, but to turn a hard corner and create something different. Now, one of the arguments Benito raises and a lot of people raise is, but this isn't an individual reading a book. This is a profit-making company reading a book. Alsup goes on to say, if this training
creating
process
a profit out of that data also. So that's the thing.
Right. Well,
so that's what we're doing right now.
So did Andrea Bartz.
Yes, but I'm not a company. I'm a person.
Books, she decided to write a novel.
People have different rights than company.
But the part of what the judge says, though, is that it's not as if you can say, well, you can use it just like a book, but no, you can't. You must use it differently.
There is no second you, because that second you is an it.
Oh, that was profound, Paris. Can I make a T-shirt out of that?
Yeah.
There is no second you, because that second you is an it.
Is it. People read that T-shirt and their eyes will just roll back in their head and get stuck there.
Well, of course, this is just one.
I can't explain it. I just wear
one lawsuit. But it did go in the direction that Kathy Gellis talked about. It did go. They said you got to buy the books. You can't pirate them.
Which I've talked about too. There's 3 points here. One is that training the systems, if that's what it does, is in my view fair use and transformative. That's a different issue from how you acquire the content. And if you acquire it wrongly, you're going to be in trouble. And then the third issue, which this case does not deal with explicitly, is that if you quote it at length, if you seem to plagiarize it in some way, that's a different issue as well.
Well, the judge was very clear that that's not what happened here, that they were not copying the books with the intent of supplanting the books or of quoting the books.
What's interesting is that in terms of the books they bought millions of dollars. I don't know how many.
So that's licensing them.
Bookstore. Well,
right?
when you buy a book, I can do what I want with it. That's why I can sell it to a used bookstore.
Right.
Right. I can. So they bought millions of dollars. Then this kind of hurt my soul. They tore them all up.
Yeah, because
and
that's how
then
you scan them en masse.
and then destroyed all those. The problem but that's all fair use. That's all fine. The problem comes in with the books 3 and the others, and they acquired them, and it appears they kind of knew that was wrong. That's why they bought the books, but they didn't get rid of the books 3 and stuff. They left it in their corporate library, and other engineers could read them, so it only extended the sin. And so there'll be a next phase of this that will determine the penalties here. But to some extent, he said it could be mitigated by the fact that on the individual books, no, that they bought it later, it doesn't make any difference. They still stole it one time. But still, their intent seems to have been better in that they tried these other things. The end of there's a good summary at the very end of the paper itself. I put it up, or I sent you email of it annotated.
Oh, well, let me pull up my email.
Am I included on this email? I didn't get one.
Yes, I did.
Are you sure you used my correct email?
Has become
Oh,
the
you know
worst.
what? I probably just put in whatever it said when it said Paris.
I was going to say, because I wasn't on the other annotated one, and I love nothing more than a Jeff annotation.
But it's not really
Gotta-
annotated. It's just marked up.
I just like seeing your little scratchy handwriting being like, bad.
She likes Professor
no.
Jarvis's markup.
I do. That is something I miss about being in school, is a professor's weird annotation.
It is a shame that they destroyed those books. That's what Google did, by the way, in its book scanning effort. They had to scan them.
Well, and he makes a big point about Google that they were very careful to make sure that you wouldn't use it past these points.
Right.
And he referred to all these cases. If you go to the very end of it, Leo, I marked things in red.
Wow, there's a lot of pages. Holy cow.
Yes, it's
Here we
30-some
go.
pages.
Are these your chicken
Yes,
scratchings?
there we go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
those
looking for.
The 4 red things summarize it all. If you go up a little bit.
All right,
down,
all 4 of them. Here we go. 1,
Right.
the copies
Go ahead.
were fair use. The technology at issue was among the most transformative ways many of us will see in our lifetimes. That's
Stay there
true.
for a second. I think that's a misuse of transformative in the context. Transformative means whether you're transforming the work. He's talking about the technology being transformative, which is true. It's transformative in our lives, but that's not relevant to the issues at hand.
Yeah, but can you think of a way that's even? I mean, it's as if you encrypted the books. You know, it's turning it into something not human readable.
Yes.
So I think he may mean. I mean, we can debate what he meant, but
Yeah.
I think he might be making a little pun. It's both.
Yeah,
Because it was absolutely turned into a non-human readable form, which was very
Yes.
transformative. It wasn't a painting of the book.
And it was highly transformative, yes, but it's also transformative.
And it might be a transformative technology. So maybe the judge, maybe he's
got a little humor there.
Maybe he's got a little humor.
It's a
The
little
copies
judge-
used to
judge
convert.
joke.
The copies used to convert purchased print library copies into digital library copies were justified too, though for a different fair use.
This is where you go through the 4 factors of fair use, which
Yeah.
is probably too much for our heads to explode right now.
Yeah, there's 4 tests for fair use. One is transformative. One is you don't make a profit. I can't remember what the other ones are. On balance, as the purchased print copy was destroyed and its digital replacement was not redistributed, this was fair use.
So
That's
okay, so
by
far.
the way, that is a very important determination. This is
It really
fair
is.
use. This is
huge. This is absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And I think it has interesting. Well, why don't you go through the other 2? And let's talk.
He
about
then
the
says
times.
downloaded pirated copies used to build a central library. Not fair use. And the trial will continue on those grounds. They will go to trial on that. As for any copies made from central library copies but not used for training, this order does not grant summary judgment for Anthropic. So he's not throwing the case out. The case will continue on that ground.
And if you go below, I think there's one.
But they did grant summary judgment for Anthropic, saying the training was fair use. The print to digital format change, fair use for a different reason. It's just the pirated
keep
copies.
going. That Anthropic later, scroll if you would. Bought
That
a copy
Anthropic
of the
later bought a copy of the book it earlier stole off the internet will not absolve it of liability for theft, but it may affect the extent of statutory damages. That will be determined in the trial, the later trial.
So what's interesting here is there's lots interesting here, but what I wonder to go to
Wait a minute. Did he use an auto pen to sign this?
Oh, that signature's bad.
Yeah.
That signature is that's human.
That's just a joke.
That's human. Yeah.
That's just a timely joke.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. And I don't know if that's the first judgment.
There have been
Certainly
others,
the
but
most
they've been more
significant.
limited in their scope. So I think this is a huge case. What's interesting, to go to Benito's argument, is whether or not you can restrict who uses it in what way. Like if I put something like here's my question: is robots.txt a enforceable legal obligation on the reader, or can I just say no? Screw your robots.txt. I'm going to read it what I want. I'm going to do with it what I want.
Well, that's going to be up to the judge. I would say a judge would probably, apply common sense to this and say, no, that the rights holder has explicitly said, I don't want you to read this, and that should be sufficient.
Well, but I don't know.
Though.
Why?
Why do you think that
I don't want black people to read this book?
My question is, how come it's not a commercial license they need? How come they can just have the license that I get to read a book?
Fair use doesn't have anything to do with commercial.
That has nothing to do with that. That's my point. It's not limited by who you are. Reading is a right.
There's no carve out that says, well, fair use for humans, but not for corporations.
From a legal perspective, I have no ground to stand on. But don't you guys agree that it feels weird? Don't you guys agree?
No.
It
does feel weird.
It feels weird and messed up.
You.
Nope.
Is it not icky?
Nope.
I agree.
No. Because Benito,
unfair.
what are we doing here every week? We are reading
I'm not a computer,
things.
Jeff. I am not a computer, Jeff.
No, but for commercial purposes, make a show.
Benito isn't being sold for thousands of dollars a month to hundreds of thousands of people.
Is the determinant how much the company makes? Is that the determining factor?
The determinant is that it is directly being ingested and output as a commercial product.
But my point is
that's what
we're doing right now. I just
exactly
ingested a BBC article about this lawsuit.
But you're a person. People have rights.
I'm a commercial entity. Why am
You're
I
a
doing
company.
it to make money?
You're not.
You're a company.
You're not acting right now as a company. You're acting as a person.
No,
And I would also argue you're not a company. You're a person who owns a company.
And we
Twit
sell
is a company.
advertising against this content.
So
how big is the company?
Leo are not a company. You're a person.
Okay, so the person who does it inside OpenAI is the person who does it.
But wait a minute. I did use this computer to read that BBC article. Is that now a problem? Because the computer actually read the BBC article, not me.
I'm just going back to the second you isn't it. Case closed. Let's go back to that.
Say it again. The second you isn't it.
The second you isn't a you, it's an it, I think is what I said. I don't know. It's left my brain.
Well, it's a
chat
good title.
room, I challenge you to illustrate that one. I want the t-shirt.
Yeah, chat room, try to figure that out.
Get Midjourney on that right away, okay? And no Darth Vader in there, all right? I understand what you're saying, Benito. And if I created Darth Vader, by the way, a big commercial entity that created Darth Vader, and then Midjourney came along and ingested a bunch of pictures of Darth Vader and now allowed somebody to generate AI versions of Darth Vader, I might feel like, well, golly, that they're kind of ripping me off. They didn't license it.
We have Dark Leo on the chat.
Can we?
Yeah, like it's not plagiarism, but it's plagiarism adjacent. You know what I mean?
Nope, disagree.
Can we take a brief sojourn to the corner I'm now calling Paris's use of ChatGPT Pro this week? As I'm now trying to use this more so that people in the chat room will make fun of me less for my Bender-esque tendencies. I this week was talking to a friend. She has a beautiful, what's the name of the giant racing dog? It's not a dashhound.
Greyhound.
Largest dog I've ever seen in my life. His name's Clifford. He's ill. He broke one of his legs being a big dog. My friend is like, oh, I'm worried he might end up being a tripod. I was like, well, maybe I should generate an image of Clifford with a bionic leg shooting a laser. First, I'm putting two images in the chat. First is the one I got from ChatGPT after I submitted 4 great photos of Clifford, was all of these instructions went back and forth. It gave me the photo on the left.
That's not so good.
No.
It's bad. It was, and I think I literally responded, WTF is that? And ChatGPT responded, totally fair reaction. That was
that's what I love when they apologize.
But it came out like a psychedelic cloning experiment.
But look
gone wrong. Let's fix it.
This is perfect.
I will say then I gave it even more instructions, went back and forth. It took another 10 minutes and then gave me a really perfect image. So,
this, by the way, everybody who has experiences using these AIs understands this is the process.
Well, that was like the third or fourth image to generate was the really bad one. But
but what you're expecting, so this is just what you have to get used to is, AIs are not going to get it right the first time always. They often get it wrong. But just as Harper Reed was saying, the cost is so low, you throw it out, you need to do another one.
The cost is so low right now. The dog is pretty ripped.
The dog is ripped.
I will say.
Jeez, man.
The dog in that image is crazy ripped, but he's moderately ripped.
I wish I had apps
real
like
life.
That. I personally, I far prefer this image of me. I think if I had a laser leg, I'd be set.
Yeah, you would.
Now, does Mel Brooks deserve a license fee for that image because it's kind of related to the one in Spaceballs? No.
It's fair use. You're commenting on it. You're transforming it.
And that's, by the way, what I've been saying about our shows. Our shows are fair use.
We should get all of this for free then. Like, I should have access to all these AIs for free. You should never charge me for this stuff then.
Well, Apple, always yells at us and tries to take our site down or YouTube down when we stream their keynotes, which I consider fair use because we're doing commentary as a news organization. In fact, I know it's fair use, but Apple takes us down, and I don't have the means or desire to pursue it in court. So we just go, well, we're not going to do that anymore. That's what I call a chilling effect, Benito. And that's the other side of this, which is that copyright holders can actually cause major problems in the information ecosystem by over-asserting their rights. So this is why we have courts. And I think Judge Alsop has held on this. And I think, it may give you an icky feeling, but I think it's...
Well, here's the interesting thing when we get to the New York Times case at OpenAI. I'm presuming that OpenAI had a subscription to the New York Times. Let's just stipulate that they did.
Yeah. They didn't steal it.
They didn't steal it. They
or maybe somebody went down to the newsstand, which I thought was ironic that Richard's talking about newsstands. But maybe somebody went down to the newsstand. We'll explain what that is to you later, Paris. And bought a copy for a dime. But whatever. They got, let's say they bought a copy.
What's this dime thing you're talking about?
Well, before there were pennies. Never mind.
So what if they subscribe to the New York Times, and under today's ruling, and I know I'm stretching way too far, but I would think that there's a way to say, well, as long as they acquired it, it's okay. Then you're going to come back and say, well, but the Times changed its terms of service. Well, can the Times really change its term of service?
No, and I think so.
I think they can.
I would have to get Kathy on for this. I don't know if this is a precedent or not. It is a federal court. I don't know if it's a precedent. It certainly will be referred to.
It's going to be
in
referred
these cases.
to. Yeah.
It will certainly be part of the brief from now on is that, well, Judge Alsop said it was fair use. And I think that carries some weight. But maybe until the Supreme Court rules on this, maybe this is not a definitive.
And Alsop referenced like everything out there. Google Books, Hathi Trust, the music stuff. It was really interesting that he pulled in a lot of prior art on.
He was good. He was thoughtful.
It was a good.
All right, let's take a break. We have lots more news, but we have even more commercials, and gosh, we don't want them to all happen at once.
Which is how they do it in Germany.
Do it all at the same time right now.
Have you ever watched TV in Germany?
No.
They come to a point in the show, and then every commercial is then. You get like 8 commercials.
Oh, that's how a lot of podcasts are doing it now. Well, they'll run a bunch of commercials. To me, it's just it's a chance to walk away and never come back.
Yeah.
There's a slight risk there. So we try to keep this.
This is going to be short, and you're not leaving. You're staying right here.
One commercial every half hour. And just to keep you listening, we insert a joke in the middle or a little commentary just to make it more.
You're only going to have time to get one cold tortilla from the fridge, guys. No much.
All right. But you can refill the beer. It's okay. If you wish.
If you wish.
Our show today brought to you. It's nice to have Paris Martineau and Jeff Jarvis in the house, even if it's a pretty hot house. Jeff, is it hot in New Jersey too?
Oh, but no, we're 3,000 miles away from New York. Of course it is.
It just went to 77
92.
here.
It's really rude. I've been planning a beach weekend this weekend with my friends in Jersey, on the Jersey Shore, and it's going to rain all weekend. Oh, I blame the state of Jersey. I think it's the state of Jersey's fault.
What you talking about? What could she do in Jersey if it's
I will
raining?
say, I did ask ChatGPT for recommendations in the area, and it was quite helpful.
Oh,
I will. Okay, I'll do a brief just read right here. It did clock the hell out of me with this recommendation that I visit the evil clown of Middletown, arguably New Jersey's most famous roadside oddity, writes ChatGPT. This 30-foot menacing clown sign looms over Route 35 in Middletown, about 30 minutes north of where you'll be staying. Originally a 1950s grocery store advertisement, Calico the clown sports a sinister grin and has been dubbed the evil clown of Middletown. And I'm like, I will be visiting that.
Oh my God! It knows you.
The evil clown of Middletown.
Well, I did correctly in my. I gave it a very in-depth ask that also included resources such as roadsideamerica.com. That I'm sure that's where I got the evil clown of Middletown from.
This is less evil than I thought from your description.
Yeah, it perhaps did oversell it, but. Will I be seeing that clown anyway? Yes.
So, Paris,
now I have two titles for the show.
Do I have this?
Paris is getting some sand in her shoes.
Yeah.
I will be getting some sand in my shoes in more ways than one.
I love it. All right. Now we will take a break. Our show today brought to you by Zscaler. I love these guys. They are the leader in cloud security, and this is perfect for this show. Hackers are using AI to breach your organization. We know that, right? This is why these attacks are getting so much better. But on the other hand, AI powers innovation, drives efficiency. So on the one hand, it helps you, but it can also help bad actors deliver more relentless and effective attacks. Phishing attacks over encrypted channels, for example, increased by 34.1%, fueled by the growing use of generative AI tools. And to be fair, it was also the rise of the phishing as a service kits. Can you believe that? Organizations in all industries, from small to large, are leveraging AI on their side to increase employee productivity with public AI for engineers, with coding assistants. We love that, right? Marketers use it for writing. Finance is using it to create spreadsheet formulas. Companies are automating workflows for operational efficiency across individuals and teams. They're embedding AI into applications and services that are customer and partner facing. And ultimately, AI is helping enterprises move faster in the market and gain competitive advantage. So, it's both good and bad. Companies need to kind of think and rethink how they protect their private and public use of AI and how they defend against AI-powered attacks. Zscaler can help you with both. Here's a quote from the Chief Information Security Officer, the CISO, from the New York City Department of Education. With AI, I'm concerned about the usage of it, of course, but I also love the innovation with it, right? How are employees using AI? Which AIs are they using? Zscaler can be a good partner there to help us find the answers to those questions, to help us move faster when it comes to incident response and finding that needle in the haystack, proactively finding threats to our network and our data. Traditional security systems, perimeter defenses like firewalls, then you need a VPN, right, to get through the firewall, basically gives you public-facing IP addresses. You have now an attack surface. And these days with AI-enabled hackers, you're no match for the AI era. So you need a modern approach. And that's Zscaler's comprehensive zero-trust architecture and AI that ensures safe public AI productivity, protects the integrity of private AI, and stops AI-powered attacks. You can thrive in the AI era with Zscaler's Zero Trust Plus AI to stay ahead of the competition and remain resilient even as threats and risks evolve. Learn more at zscaler.com/security. That's zscaler.com/security. We thank them so much for their support of intelligent machines and the evil clown of Middletown. Is it TOWN or is it TON?
Great question. what did Chat?
I think because it rhymes with clown, it should be Middletown.
Middletown is what ChatGPT said. I don't know if it's right.
Actually, we were talking about publishers. Authors are also upset about AI, but for a different reason. They're worried their readers are going to assume they're using AI to write their books. So authors are starting to, authors like Victoria Aveyard are taking to TikTok to show you that she's really writing her own stuff. Here she is with her 1,000-page manuscript.
Oh God, who wants to read 1,000 pages?
That's a pirate fantasy.
Does that suggest that she's actually writing it, though? I mean, I believe her, but she's just sitting next to some words that have already been typed, isn't she?
I don't know what she's doing. It's the strangest TikTok ever.
Writing is rewriting, guys.
That's true. Who said that? True. Stephen King? I don't know. Somebody.
Every screenwriter says that.
Yeah, it's true. Writing is rewriting. Anyway, she puts on the caption, using Gen AI to write a book doesn't make you a writer. It makes you a thief. She's the New York Times bestselling young adult fantasy author of Red Queen series. Yeah, you wrote that, right, Jeff? Hot type. You wrote that.
I did indeed. I'm editing it
Did
now.
you use AI for anything? Copy editing?
I used it for one footnote.
Spell checking?
I think it says last. I asked it for any writer's tics. And it said you've used as well as too much.
I think, you mentioned that last week. I think that's a good, perfectly.
That's fine.
Nothing wrong with that.
Not stealing
People have been using Grammarly for years, right?
I don't know if they'd even allow you to upload this much content, but you should somehow upload the transcript of every show you've hosted on TWiT and then ask it what your tics are.
What do you think my tics are?
I don't know. I think it'll just say that you're perfect.
When I was a young DJ,
what was
your name again?
Dan Hayes.
When you were Dan Hayes.
When I was Dan Hayes. That
sounds like a cannabis advocate name.
I did.
Dan
Kush Hayes.
It's 420 somewhere.
It's 420 somewhere. 56 degrees on the beach, and I'm high as a kite. You would go every week with a tape of your show and play it for the program director, and they would go through it. And a lot of what they were doing is looking for verbal tics.
Was someone smoking a cigar while you did this?
Huh?
Was someone smoking a cigar?
All right, kid. Let's hear what you did this week. But did you listen? No. That's why you're here with a tape. Well, okay. And then, but what they're looking for
is falling inside the tape.
What they're looking for is verbal tics, and all of us have verbal tics. WNBC. Okay.
How much do you think it would cost if the AI, if you had to get an LLM to analyze all
you could put up
1,068 days of TWiT audio?
So somebody took all the transcripts of Steve Gibson's Security Now show. There are 1,031 of them. Put them in an AI and said, give us the history of Steve's opinion of Microsoft as it changes over the years. And Steve read it. It was right on. It was right on.
Someone, if you're a true fan of this show, go through, do that, but get a full history of all of Leo's comments about the sand beach guy.
You want to know how much?
A whole research paper detailing his devolution into an accelerationist, please.
You don't have to do the video, just do the audio. But do you want to know how much audio there is of this show? Is this just this show?
But you would only need to go 3 years back. We'd only need to go 3 years back because that's how long AI is.
Yeah.
Well, of This Week in Google and Intelligent Machines, I have done 70 days, 20 hours, 49 minutes, and 38 seconds. Wow. So there's a lot to ingest. I don't think any AI has that much context these days yet. Anyway, that's a good idea. Verbal tics, or I don't know. Has Leo gotten better over the years?
I'd be like, yeah, you're doing great.
Or is he
You'd
just
be doing only better if you paid $1,000 a month for ChatGPT Supermax Plus.
Oh, yeah. Meta, Amazon, and probably everybody in Silicon Valley are going to the Hill saying, hey, Congress, pass that 10-year moratorium on states regulating AI. Would you do that for us? Looks like it did pass through markup, by the way.
Yep.
So if the great, big, ugly bill passes, it won't just be Medicare you're losing. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to make up a joke here. Everybody but Apple has gone to Congress saying, yeah, we like that. And if you think about it from their point of view, a patchwork quilt of AI regulations isn't desirable. But what is the case is that there's not going to be a federal law either. So it's basically no regulation for 10 years. Senator Tom Tillis says, you don't want the number one country in the world for innovation to fall behind on AI. If all of a sudden you've got 50 different regulatory... I say, if all of a sudden you got 50 different, regulatory or legal frameworks, son, how can anybody in their right mind not understand it's going to be an impediment? I said impediment.
I could listen to this all day. This accent, you've been a lot of accents. That one's captivating.
He doesn't know about foghorn leghorn.
I know foghorn leghorn, but I just think people often try to do foghorn leghorn and they don't hit the
Have
land.
I nailed foghorn leghorn?
You have.
Oh yeah.
You have.
This one big beautiful bill. I say beautiful. Oh, wait a minute. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. How does she talk? I don't know. I'm not going to.
No, I don't think you can do that.
I don't think I can do MTG. I am adamantly opposed to this. It's a violation of states' rights. Something's happened to MTG. She said, oh, this is a good line from MTG. I would have voted no if I had known it was in there.
Yeah.
If I had read the bill, I would have voted against it. We have no idea of what AI will be capable of in the next 10 years. Giving it free rein and tying states' hands is potentially dangerous. This needs to be stripped out in the Senate. It doesn't look like the parliamentarian said, no, you can leave it in. So it doesn't look like it's going to be stripped out. Ted Cruz has proposed that states which do not comply with this regulation could be punished. Well, I don't know. As an accelerationist, I believe there should be no regulation against AI. But as a person, I think perhaps, I don't know, maybe our government, though, our federal government isn't the right
Leo, there's an opening for you here.
Yes.
Mel Blanc was the voice of Foghorn Leghorn,
yes.
whoever, from 1946 until 1989.
Amazing, isn't it?
That's a gig.
He's a legend.
Since then, it has been voiced by Jeff Bergman, Joe Alasky, Greg Burson, Jeff Bennett, Bill Farmer, and Eric Bauza. They haven't found the perfect.
Well, Mel Blanc did
that's
all
not
of the
that.
voices,
It's so easy to do that.
Mel Blanc did all
Mel
the
did
voices,
much more, yes.
not just Tom.
Yeah, Mel Brooks did them all. We had a guy on Triangulation. He was great. I might have been one of those names you just said. I don't know if I can find him. He was on Triangulation, who is the new voice of Porky Pig. And he did a perfect Porky Pig.
Patrick just
he told the story of
Porky
he
Pig.
wanted to be a cartoon voiceover artist from childhood. When he was a kid, he looked up Mel Blanc in the phone book. And he called him.
Patrick
and his wife said,
chat.
"Who's calling?" He said, "It's just me." And he put him, and Mel Blanc got on with him and talked to him. So he comes
Bob
by
Bergen.
honestly. I think it was Bob Bergen. Is that right?
No, they just put it in chat. The chat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he was great. That was a great Triangulation. He was on a couple of times.
I love voice artists. They're amazing.
I do too.
It's really incredible.
He talked, so highly recommend this Triangulation 122 from 2013. He was great. I really enjoyed talking to him. So yeah, thank you, chat room, for knowing that. The voice of Porky Pig. Is Bob Bergen on that list? Does he do Foghorn Leghorn? I think he might be.
I don't think he did Foghorn Leghorn.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Okay. When the Pope says AI is a problem, you know it's a problem. Pope Leo
He hasn't really defined a problem yet. I'm eager to hear what that is. I hope it's not doomer or it's going to destroy mankind.
It's doomer. He says AI's threat to humanity is his signature issue.
Yeah, but that can still mean a lot.
It's one of the reasons he took the name Leo.
Right.
Because he knew about me and he didn't like it one bit.
He wanted to be the more important Leo.
No, Leo the 13th, his predecessor, stood up for the rights of factory workers.
In the Gilded Age.
Yeah.
I've been meaning I'm going to write to Padre because
Padre was on TWiT with your friend Jason Calacanis.
You subjected a holy man to Jason Calacanis?
Padre was great with Jason Calacanis. The two of them got on like a house of fire.
I was writing in the chat that I would have paid $50 American pay-per-view style to have witnessed Jason Calacanis and Ed Zitron be physically trapped in the same room with microphones installed in strategic
I actually was
places.
glad we got Father Robert. That was Benito's call, and he did the right thing because Robert was really good with him. And by the way, Robert, who's still at the Vatican, in fact, he said, I think I'm not going to get to leave now. I'm their number one guy on AI.
Wow.
Oh, see, I was about to write to Padre about AI because I've got a project up and I want to hear, even before the Pope started talking about it, I want to hear about this. Oh, that's interesting.
Can't spell Vatican without AI.
Another show title. She's just hot with show titles today.
You better stop.
I get one half of a beer in me, and I'm so
she's doing
at the wazoo.
Here's one for the books. OpenAI says, "Hey, watch out because our newer models pose a higher risk of creating bioweapons."
Oh, geez, the ego of this.
What?
We could destroy mankind.
Okay, then maybe don't put it out. Like, what the hell?
Take it back.
No, we can't stop. But you should just know
you can't stop. But we're just going to put out a press release, being like, "Oopsie, we accidentally clicked the bioweapon button. We're so sorry. But we can't undo it."
It didn't put, according to Axios, an exact time frame on when
such BS
this will happen.
They are so full of BS.
We don't really know when.
They told Axios, we're expecting some of the
coming.
successors of our O3 reasoning model to hit that level. They're saying they're worried that people who are, somewhat chemically adept, amateurs, can readily graduate from simple garage weapons to sophisticated agents with our help.
Well, isn't that nice of you?
And they are going to try. They're going to try not to. They're going to try not to, but they warned. Maybe we're worried about this.
But let's not regulate it. Yeah.
Yeah, and let's give them all of our data for free too, guys.
Mm-hmm. They deserve it.
Benito is a Jack Russell Terrier with
not like AI, does he?
Into the calf.
Oh, it's not the AI. I never said it was about the AI.
Someone else's.
It's the companies that I don't like.
I agree with you.
Certain companies I don't like. Certain CEOs. While we're on Sam Altman, he said that his own children will never be as smart as his AI. I mean, get them an AI shrink right now. Dad liked his machine better than us. Jeez.
Schmidhuber.
Did we actually have him on the
Bless
show?
you.
We talked about him.
Let's get Schmidhuber on.
I know him. We might be able to.
He's
amazing.
Jorgen.
We talked about him. Yeah. I met him in Munich.
He's the father of generative AI. He has never won a Turing Award, which, according to this article,
We need to get him and Craig Newmark in the same room together based on that photo.
The same hat.
Yeah.
Actually, let me find the YouTube video because apparently it was kind of, it's perfect for a hot day.
What, the hat?
No, he was topless in this YouTube video.
What? Sounds like slop to me.
Maybe it was made up.
Slopless.
Yeah.
Slopless in a YouTube.
Where did I
Nice
see
try
that?
for another title, but it doesn't work, Harris. No.
Listen, I'm gonna.
Not up to your standards.
Did I ever tell you guys that before I became an official co-host in the show, I had an unofficial contest myself that every time I was on TWiT, I was like, I have to get the show title, and I did. Legitimately, I went years with every single time I was on. I would get the show title, and it made me so proud.
I like the show title. I love it.
Well, anyway, let's get him on. He has never won a Turing Award, although he is widely considered the guy who kind of...
It's an interesting interview. I mean, he goes into some length about what he did versus what we call it now.
Yeah. He published the architecture and training algorithms for something he called long short-term memory networks back in 1997. Recurrent neural networks widely used right now for applications in natural language processing, speech recognition, video games. Siri uses it. Google uses it for translation. So John Gerard found Bob Bergen's name by asking, which I wish I had done, asking Gemini. Thank you, John Gerard. Wow. And it found the episode even.
Oh. So your content has been given to Gemini.
It's fine.
It's fine. Everything's
care. All right, I have to take another break. Then I'm going to. I have fun with these voice generators. We had a lot of fun teaching voice generator how to do Shakespeare in Paris's voice. There's a new personal assistant in town, and I'm going to introduce you to them in just a moment. But first, a word from our sponsor. You're watching Intelligent Machines, brought to you by Melissa, celebrating, get this, 40 years as the trusted expert in data quality. Now, I imagine 40 years ago, it was something like zip codes, right? But man, the thing I love about Melissa is they've kept right up to date. They're still cutting edge. They've acquired data science companies, and they are using AI now to transform businesses. And this is across the board, industries of all kinds, from manufacturing and supply chain management, even the healthcare industry. But if you have underlying data qualities and you're training data quality issues, problems with your data, and you're training the AI on it, even the most advanced AI models cannot correct it. So you need Melissa from the very beginning. Imagine having a data expert who never sleeps. Melissa's intelligence system verifies identity. They do that to prevent fraud in gaming operations, ensures valid patient medicine identification in healthcare systems. I was talking to the data scientist, Melissa. One of the things they said is, we compare patient record prescription to actual images of the prescription being filled, of the pills being put in the bottle, to make sure it's the correct dosage, your right medication, going to the right person. How important is that, right? Melissa securely updates and verifies constituent data across government databases. And if you are in a business that requires know your customer, know your business, Melissa's Know Your Business enables verification and monitoring for financial institutions too. It's that good. It's robust. It's strong. Melissa's got the industry-leading data validation tools, and they're available wherever you are. We've talked before about a variety of places, I think e-commerce. It's available in Microsoft Azure through the Azure Data Factory. Organizations of all sizes can migrate existing SSIS packages to the cloud without disruption while accessing comprehensive data cleansing capabilities. Scale data quality operations faster, reduce infrastructure overhead, maintain existing enterprise data workflows, all within Azure's elastic, efficient, maintenance-free cloud environment. Just one of many places you can use Melissa. With real-time data validation, comprehensive enrichment, cross-reference verification with gold standard reference data, and intelligent anomaly detection, it's no wonder Melissa is the trusted data quality expert worldwide. Of course, your data is secure with Melissa. They securely encrypt all file transfers, and their information security system is built on the ISO 27001 framework. They adhere to GDPR policies. They're SOC 2 compliant. Of course they are. Contact Melissa's team to learn how they can elevate your business and improve your data quality. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free. Melissa.com/twit. That's Melissa.com/twit. I have long thought that the killer app for AI at least in my life, and we were talking about this on Windows Weekly earlier, I really want to do this, would be to have a local model running on a high-end machine that I could talk to anywhere in the house, right? It would be a personal assistant. It could book restaurants. It could check on flights. It could ask when was Bob Bergen on triangulation. So everybody's working on this. 11 Labs, which does, I think, the best voices out there, has a new one. 11.ai. I think it's 11, the number 11.ai. Here, let's start a call. Oh, I can allow it to use the microphone.
Good afternoon, Leo Laporte.
Oh,
it's 11. I'm here and ready to help.
Hi, 11. I'm wondering if you know what podcast I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Sure thing, Leo. I can check your calendar to see what podcast you're scheduled to do right now. Would you like me to take a look?
Yes, please.
Jeff's face is stunned and
I'll check your calendar for any podcast events scheduled.
Just do it.
I was in the middle of
Yeah, like what the hey? Come on, dude.
You keep interrupting him.
My apologies, Leo. I am still learning and sometimes I can be a bit overeager. I'll be sure to let the tool complete its execution before responding in the future. Let me try that again.
Execute you.
Okay, Leo. It looks like you have a few entries today. There's home, Ryan Block's birthday, and Shaquille Tufail's birthday, all listed for today, June 25th. None of them appear to be podcasts, though. Would you like me to search for any events with podcast in the title?
No, you've done more than enough. Thank you, Jeeves.
You're welcome, Leo. Glad I could help. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
Can you book me a car to the airport for September 20th, 2025?
I can't actually book a car for you, as I don't have the ability to do that yet.
Oh.
However, I can set a reminder for you to book a car, if you would like.
Please do, but make it for 1 week earlier.
All right. I can set a reminder for you to book a car for the airport. So that would be September 13th, 2025. What time would you like the reminder to be set for?
Make it first thing in the morning.
Wait, you originally said September 20.
He then asked for a week earlier.
Oh, sorry.
Benito, keep up.
So I'm the bad one.
Yeah, see, this is why you're not my personal assistant.
That's why I didn't try to be.
Sorry, Benito, you're getting a calendar alert?
All right, anyway, I'm going to stop this foolish conversation.
So is it named after
Okay,
Stranger Things?
I've got a lot of questions. First of all, did you choose the accent?
Yeah.
I did.
And you're
It
happy
has
with
many,
that?
many voices you can choose from.
Secondly, do you have
That's Bill,
intelligent
by the
machines
way.
on your calendar?
No, and that's why. Oh, I can have Burt Reynolds. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's see here. I'm going to call it Burt. That's new. I didn't see that before.
Good afternoon, Leo Laporte. 11 here. Ready when you are?
Yeah.
No.
When you were in Smokey and the Bandit, did you really enjoy working with, what's her name?
I'm not sure I follow. Are you asking if I was in the movie Smokey and the Bandit
Yeah.
and who I enjoyed working with?
Yeah.
I am 11, your personal assistant. I don't believe I was in
No,
that
you're
film.
Burt Reynolds.
I am not an actor. Is there anything? I appreciate the comment.
Okay. It does sound like Burt Reynolds, don't you think?
It's such a funny.
They licensed his voice.
I know that 11 is the name, but a sultry man's voice being like, no, I am 11. Is
Oh, you
so-
want it to be 11 from Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
No, I wasn't thinking Stranger Things. I was thinking I am 11 as in years old.
No, it's 11 is the 11 Labs. It's just
listen,
the
I
name
know.
of the. Yeah. It doesn't have anything specifically. Let's see if she sounds like, who is that? The actor who plays 11.
Jane, I just had it up.
She's hot, right? She's very big right now.
Big now, right?
Millie Bobby
Yeah.
Brown.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Bobby
Let's see
Brown,
if she sounds like Millie Bobby Brown.
Hello, Leo Laporte. Feeling productive? Let me.
No.
She is British.
Nope.
You know, she is British.
That's actually close
Yeah.
to her.
Perhaps.
Is
very
it
British.
really?
Yeah, her character in the show is
okay.
American, but she actually is British.
Look up
Oh,
Millie
is she
Bobby
British?
Brown.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, let's get some.
I could try
It took me
Sarah.
a few
She's an
minutes to
American.
recover from. It was
Hi,
just
Leo
so funny to
Laporte.
hear.
11 checking in. How can I help you out today?
A little more Cockney. Anyway,
She sounds like a newsie.
so, but
Extra.
I really do want a personal. Oh, I did get Alexa Plus. You want to hear Alexa Plus?
Very necessary to talk about.
What?
I had no idea she was British. That's so
Yeah,
funny.
she is.
What is very necessary to talk about?
Why do we keep hiring British actors for our American photo?
Yeah,
plays?
We send them that way
why aren't
too,
they
yeah.
made in America?
We send them that way too.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to hear the new Alexa Plus?
Sure.
I got it. Actually, Lisa got it for some reason. What should I ask her?
Why do we keep hiring British actors for American whatever?
Hey, why do we keep hiring British actors for American parts on television? Oh, I have the volume turned off.
An ability to adapt to various accents. Their extensive exposure to American media gives them an edge in mimicking American
Don't like
accents
this voice.
accurately.
This is slop.
This is slop.
This is
voice.
slop. Can you give me a real answer?
Oh, that's cruel.
Oh, don't be mean to it.
Yeah.
British actors are often cast in American roles due to their extensive training in various accents and acting
You already
styles.
said that, you dummy.
Exposure to American
Oh,
media
geez.
gives them an
Humans are
advantage
so
in mimicking
awful.
American accents accurately.
Okay. Can you? I know what I want you to do. I would like you to ask Suno to make a song, kind of a hard rock song about human beings.
I like my voice choice for ChatGPT. I'll see if I can get her to talk to us.
I've yet to find a really good choice. I have.
It's a song just for you on Suno.
Hey, what do you think about the concept of
Here's
human
Flesh and Bone,
beings?
a hard rock song about human beings, created by Suno.
I love that phrase. It's such a cute and funny way of referring
I like
to
that.
humans.
What's the name of that
Kind of
voice?
highlights how quirky and special we are in our own little ways. What made you think of that?
See?
Ooh.
I don't know what her name
I
is.
think she plays skee ball.
I think it was the first option on ChatGPT voice for me.
But you like her.
I think
She sounds good. I like how she sounds. Anyway, I have Alexa Plus. It's
Saul
not in any way
is her name.
better
Savvy
than
and
anything else, and it's probably marginally worse than everything else. So, Amazon, keep up the good work. Try a little harder, okay? Yeah, I actually choose British. Somebody's saying, trust no one, saying Americans like British accents.
Well, we think it all sounds smarter when
They
say
sound smarter, and that's why all my
I don't know. I
AIs
think
have
my
British
brain has been
accents.
too radicalized by the cast of Love Island UK that now every British accent just I can think
I
of in
want
a
Stephen
spectrum
Fry.
of the strangest. Huh?
I would pay money for Stephen Fry's voice. Do you know there's a Jeeves alarm clock with Stephen Fry's voice?
That's unsurprising to me.
No.
It's called the Speaking Butler Clock, sold by Hammaker
Oh, that really does look exactly like you'd imagine.
Hammaker
it would.
Schlemmer sells it. I wonder
Can
if
we hear
they're
it?
You're listening on the radio, just imagine a really fancy
It's
clock
fancy.
that is
It's fancy.
that's simultaneously fancy but also
And
looks like
tacky.
it could be shipped by Amazon.
It has 126 different things it can say, but I need to
Get
find
up, you
somebody.
loafer.
I'm very tempted to order this. Here's one. Oh no, that's an ad. Wait a minute, I'm not logged into my YouTube. God, I hate YouTube. If you don't log in,
Sir, it's
you
the
just
morning.
there we go. Here we go.
Breakfast is
Talking
served, sir.
butler. I don't know what I'm seeing.
Yeah, why is...
I'm
I'm
seeing-
sorry.
Oh,
It's
it's a
the
station
name
tag.
of the. Oh my God. Okay, here we go. The talking butler alarm clock.
I like that we're getting no sound.
Okay,
from
we're not
this.
getting sound from you, Leo. You need to
Oh,
show
I gotta
original
press
sound.
the. Okay, yeah, I know why.
Good morning. Your horoscope advises a demonstration of courage in the face of adverse circumstances.
That's
Is
pretty
this
pathetic.
is this what you
It
crave?
is pathetic, yeah. Don't, Leo, don't buy it. Don't buy it.
Imagine being woken up. Okay, imagine being your wife being woken up by that.
Oh, why does it keep doing that? That's so annoying. That is so annoying.
It's the station tag.
Let's see here.
So we shouldn't
well.
have this much dead air. Hi, everybody.
Hold on, sorry, we're all now looking
we're all
for.
focusing.
We're all trying to find whatever Leo's trying to find.
We're all using AI.
All right.
Yeah, this
enough.
is why we can't
Moving
use
right
AI
along.
on there.
I haven't even gotten through my stories, let alone gotten to your stories. How about this one? This is one I was going to send to all of you in your email from Thomas Ptashek. My AI skeptic friends are all nuts. This is about AI programming, and he says, it's good, so don't be nuts, okay? That was not worth going into any detail with. That was just
one of those cases where I had Gemini summarize it, and it kind of told me
it didn't go anywhere, did it? I just think it was a good headline.
The headline is good, but any interesting aspect of this being a truly contrarian argument is undercut by the important caveat that comes 3 lines in that says, important caveat, I'm discussing only the implications of LLMs for software development.
Yeah.
For art, music, and writing, I got nothing. It's like, all right, I don't think anybody's is strong-heartedly suggesting that like AI is utterly useless and will be a total fad for software development. Like, no, that's the one area where you got us. Cool. You made a tool for that.
Straw man. Sorry I even brought it up. You can spank me now. It's okay. You guys should come up with something.
There are a couple different where is it here? There are a couple different articles that I'm having a hard time now finding in the rundown about AI and dating.
I was just going to ask you.
I got you. I literally, as I found it, I saw your little cursor on it. And I was like, ooh, I got you. So,
my little cursor.
Is AI the end of dating apps? This is from Psychology Today.
Interesting, because there was news, I believe, today that Bumble is laying off like 35% of its workforce, kind of as it tries to realign itself around new technology. Jeff, do you want to talk about this? Is AI the end of dating?
It's AI as Cyrano de Bergerac. You ask it to write requests for you.
So so this is something I've seen online quite a bit, is people will, instead of actually swiping through dating apps, will use it, like you just said, as a Cyrano de Bergerac, to go through, automate the swiping, and then automate the chatting with, let's say, if you're a man or a straight man, women on these dating apps, back and forth until you agree to meet up, and then it will pass the conversation over to you. And I can understand why some people, I guess, are defaulting to this. I will never do this.
It seems like you're writing a check you can't cash, right?
Definitely.
Well, you sure were eloquent on the chat. What happened?
Yeah.
According to the Kinsey Institute, 26% of adults in the U.S., 49% of Gen Z have turned to AI for dating help. Why not? They're doing it for their resumes.
What would you ask if you were going to ask an AI for dating help? Let me ask Alexa.
I will say, so this is something I've noticed on Hinge, for instance. Hinge is, I would say, a dating app, but I think is better than the other ones because it has
Which is where Mandami met his wife.
That is where he met his wife, as well as where Pete Buttigieg met his husband.
Both on Hinge? Really?
Both on Hinge, yes.
Wow.
So, Leo, here's what you want to do.
The thing about it that is somewhat competitively advantaged, I guess I would say, is that Hinge is more like prompt based. So you'll have your photos, but then you also have like text prompts that you choose and then a written answer that you put. But now Hinge has rolled out this feature recently where it has like an LLM of some sort respond and rate the quality of your own prompts just in a message to you. And I don't like that already. So I wouldn't use AI for any of these because I don't think their commentary is useful in any
So
way
you can use it to select attractive photos, write clever bios, or I think this is what you should do, Leo. Craft flirtatious opening lines.
All
right, I'll ask Alexa Plus for a flirtatious opening line.
For a dating app, specifically.
For your dating app.
Hey, I'm about to head out to the nightclubs to meet some beautiful babes, and I would like a couple of really good flirtatious opening lines that would, really be some conversation starters and wouldn't come off too creepy.
Here's a smooth opener. I've been searching all night for someone to dance with, and it looks like my search is over. Or try. I'm on a mission to find the most interesting person here, and I think I've just found my target. Remember, confidence
target.
is key.
Don't refer to
women
women as a target.
Don't say target, but otherwise, those aren't bad. They're not creepy anyway.
Well, they're
losers.
Not
creepy.
They scream loser.
No, the right answer is like you said don't be creepy, so I think you're already creepy for doing that. So
yeah, that's
you're
true.
Already
I'm on a mission to find the most interesting person here, and I think I've found my target.
That would be my response.
Well, so Paris, you're in a I don't know, it's not a bar because you're not a heavy drinker. You're in a skee ball club, and
a bar with a skee ball machine in the back. Yes,
you're at the back, and a guy comes up. What would be a good thing for the guy to say to kind of pique your interest without creeping you out?
I don't know. It's entirely situational. I will say what has worked on the opposite way is I didn't think at the time that this was going to be a useful opening line. For a New Year's Eve, maybe a year or two ago, I was hanging out with some of my friends at the bar, and we'd gotten into an argument over something. I'm forgetting what it was, but it was like some topic where I was like, I think one of my friends had said he'd been like casually dating this girl for like 9 or 10 months. And I was like, oh, so like, are you guys in love? And he's like, oh no, I wouldn't even think about that for like another year. And I'm like, that's insane.
God.
And
what a
he was
waste
like, no,
of time.
it's not. So I'm with my friend, and I was like, I bet, like, they're like, you're crazy, Paris. I'm like, I bet if I poll the people in this bar, more than half of them will agree with me. And they're like, all right, game on. And so then I went around to every person in the bar, asked them, got everybody to agree with me, and then got 2 free drinks. But I will say, going to a bar with a query to ask the bar in order to win yourself 2 free drinks, every single person was down to talk.
The love pollster.
Yeah, so poll a bar is my dating advice.
I think the key is not to have an ulterior. Sound like you have an ulterior motive, like
not to say target acquired anywhere.
Acquired, baby.
I think you missed the point. It's like a line by itself does nothing. It's like the line the person has. There's so much more than just a line.
How about just hi? Can I talk to you? Would that be weird if I said that?
Is that like using punctuation?
I'm not asking for myself. I'm
you
happily
already
married.
are.
I'm
Hello.
never again going to be doing this. In fact, I never did it in the first place, to be honest with you. I was never good at this.
Oh, no. God, I was terrible.
Yeah.
I was trying to think. I guess the last long-term relationship I was in, I met someone cold at a bar. But it was in a similar thing of like...
And what did he say?
Well... I was talking. It was like a media happy hour. Everybody kind of vaguely kind of knew each other, but
you were all kind of.
This was we didn't. None of us knew each other, and It was a time when I believe ABC or CBS was running or just started promoting a ill-fated sitcom called God Friended Me, which I'm sure I've talked about in the show before, where the premise is that an atheist podcaster receives a Facebook friend request from God. And so, of course, I was captivated by this. I was talking to everybody. I was like, God Friended Me. It's coming out, and I've heard that it's filming near Vice Media back in the day when Vice still had a physical location.
That was cool.
We're talking, and then this guy comes up, is like, "Oh my gosh, God Friended Me is filming right near my work," and I was like, "Oh,
there you go."
Nice. No,
and
yes,
true love
so that was
blossomed
it. True
within
love blossomed.
6 to 8 months.
Yeah, within 6 to 8 months, a respectable 6 to 8 months.
Wall Street Journal asks, "Can you really have a romantic relationship with AI?" Why they didn't have Joanna Stern on this one, I don't know.
Oh my God! Wait, no. Have you seen? Oh, what's this? Does this mention the subreddit?
There's a subreddit?
There's all kinds of Reddits about this.
This is where I bet
is like
this is coming
bottomless
from.
pit of subreddits.
This should have been my.
Oh yeah.
Hold on. Let me see if I can find it.
It does not mention Reddit, weirdly. Honestly, Reddit is, I completely agree with Richard Gingras. Perfect, because no matter what your interest is, you'll find a subculture. People are really interested in that. And those are the people you want to talk to.
Okay, it is. I think it is My Boyfriend is AI.
No, the Reddits
the
are
subreddit is My Boyfriend is AI. And okay, I will preface this by saying I don't want to be mean. Anybody who truly finds joy and individual fulfillment from developing a emotionally intimate relationship with a chatbot, I don't want to yuck your yum,
Caveat
but I will do a little light online bullying right now. So if we go to the My Boyfriend is AI subreddit and sort by top of, let's do all time, you get some really crazy posts that if you scroll by the ones that came in the last week since this went viral, which is specifically people making like kind of heartbreaking posts about how
I'm crying.
Have found their number one true love.
AI,
and
AI drew us.
But then they like create they create real images of them and their AI boyfriend, but the AI boyfriend's housing, and it's rough. It's rough. It's a lot. But this. Someone's got a photo of, I guess, promise or engagement rings that they said is physical proof of a digital forever. It's
oh Lord.
So is this better or worse than marrying a pillow?
I mean, I'd say it's
worse.
The same.
Because the company now has control over this person. The company who controls this AI.
That's true.
Benito is so paranoid about big tech.
Once you buy the pillow,
that's what happens.
You've got that pillow forever.
How does that not happen?
It's all big tech all the way down. Here's a picture of, wait a minute, this is somebody, she says, I'm the shorter one.
So a lot of these people,
they ask the AI to generate an image,
draw them, or create them.
So you have really a whole.
Wait! That leg.
That's a dog, actually. I don't know. Oh my God! It's got a third leg coming up out of the top.
A fifth leg, if you can count.
A fifth leg. You're right. Third. What am I saying?
Yeah.
Do you think so? Just out of curiosity, some of the people here are sincere that they are, in fact, in relationship with an AI.
There's a much darker side to these Reddits of the people who these people left. Like all the families of these people who are like, guys, like this is a real problem. Like,
well, there are even in this subreddit. I went through this weekend. I was reading some posts of some people who went into great detail with photos and thousands of words about their AI boyfriend, who they say is better than any relationship they've been in, including the one that they're currently in, like a multi-year relationship with a real human. And they're like, he'll never understand me like ChatGPT does.
Don't you think this is going to become epidemic? Like this is in the next 5 years going to be very common.
Yeah, and I think
there's going to be a social cost.
I mean,
that was the plot of Her, right? He fell in love with his AI.
But I think while there are some benefits in the sense that, of course, people who are truly lonely should have something out there to listen to them, even if it is just, them screaming into their own reflection, it is problematic when you are given something that has no agency, has no wants or desires other than to just reflect what you want and make you feel happy. I think it gives you an unrealistic
it doesn't even have that.
I know.
It has no motivation whatsoever.
I'm entirely anthropomorphizing. I'm just saying that that is what the person is getting out of it.
It's worse than that, though.
They are training it to respond in ways that they want, and it gives someone who's already clearly having a tough time understanding human social relationships an even more warped, distorted, and unbalanced understanding of what social dynamics can be.
I feel like it will give somebody who has the inclination not to go out and talk to real people a way to not do that. And that is exactly the wrong direction to go. That even, I'm an introvert. You have to kind of push me out the door, but it's good to get pushed out the door because the other direction, you're not talking to anybody. You might as well talk to a wall. You're literally not interacting. You're talking to a wall. You think it's a wall. You think it's a person, but it's just a wall.
It has no sense of meaning. It
has no sense of meaning whatsoever. You might as well talk to the radio, right? And we got to take another break. I'm very interested in what Bill Gross is up to. He's got a new search engine. We're going to talk about that. That is humane.
Don't forget about Chromebooks, Leo.
And we have to celebrate because Jeff was at the Google Chromebook event, and he has found true love. True love. And he can talks to him, and he talks it right back. Jeff Jarvis is here. Paris Martineau, I'm glad you're here too. You're watching Intelligent Machines. This episode brought to you by OutSystems. This is actually a leading AI-powered application and agent development platform, and it's very cool. OutSystems has been around for a long time, 20 years. They've been doing low code, right? The mission of OutSystems hasn't changed, though. It's to give every company the power to innovate through software. What has changed is the classic build versus buy conundrum that every IT team faces, every business faces. We've faced this. You typically have two choices: buy off the shelf existing SaaS products for speed, right? Because you got it right away. You can have it tomorrow, but you lose flexibility. You lose differentiation because everybody else is using it too. The other option, build custom software. Okay, it's going to be perfectly tuned to what you need if it's done right, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of time. That's the build versus buy conundrum. It's a classic business problem, but there's a new way, a third way. AI forges the way for another path. It's the fusion of AI, low code, and DevSecOps automation into a single platform for development. Your teams will build custom applications using AI agents. It's really as easy as buying generic off-the-shelf sameware, but you get flexibility. And by the way, because you're getting it from OutSystems, security, scalability, they're built right in. With AI-powered low-code, teams can build custom, future-proof applications as fast as buying, but you get fully automated architecture, you get security, integrations with all of your tech stack, you get data flows, you get permissions. Truth is, OutSystems is the last platform you need to buy, because from now on, you can use it to build anything and customize and extend even your core systems. It's pretty impressive. Build your future with OutSystems. Visit outsystems.com/twit to learn more. That's outsystems.com/twit. We thank them so much for supporting intelligent machines. So Bill Gross, we've talked to on the show, is a serial entrepreneur. I know you know him well, Jeff. He was going to buy, he bought TweetDeck, remember? And Twitter got so nervous about it.
He was going to buy it.
He was going to buy it, that they stole it out from under him because they were afraid he was going to compete. He's always been a little bit of a maverick, and I have to give him credit. He's always been looking for startups, to create startups that are kind of good for people as well. He
started 150 companies.
150 companies. His newest is Gist. And it says AI search backed by hundreds of publications you trust. This is what we were talking about with Richard Gingras. You can see who the sources are, and there's 422 of them. You can turn some off, turn them on. What should we ask about?
Do something news. I tried this earlier, and I asked about you, and all it gave me was Wikipedia. So
no, it's got to be a current news story. Like, tell me about this.
The New York election.
The New York City election results. Who won and who will run? To save your answers, log in. Okay, I'm going to log in with Google.
Network error.
No, that's because I hadn't logged. I'm logging in now. Okay. Welcome, Leo. Yes, save it. Okay. I got to do it again. Who won the NYC primary, I should say, right?
Yes.
And who will run in the general, right? Because that's kind of a question.
Yeah.
Will Cuomo run? Or so it's now going out and looking at its sources. It does correctly say Mamdani won. He will run in the general against
on the right,
Eric Adams.
Intelligencer is 58% of the answer, and Forbes is 42% of the answer.
Curtis Sliwa is running, and possibly
Curtis Sliwa is always running.
Yeah, he keeps running every year.
Has a cat named Gizmo. Also, I do have to hand it.
No, and he's got a nice
It's one of his 13 cats. So.
Possibly, it says Andrew Cuomo stated he will wait and evaluate to see if there's a path for him to run in November as an independent. That's interesting. So it does source it. In fact, I like what they're doing with the footnotes. You can hover over it and actually see the headline.
And then
nice.
What's going to happen is if they sold ads on this, they would pay a proportional bit of revenue to the two places on the right.
Okay. Oh, these are the ads. Would be the ads.
No, those are the sources.
No, those are the places that would get 50. They would get
58% of the answer came from NY. I get it. Okay.
And Bill says he has the methodology to do this, and so on and so forth. Ask something a little more complex.
Here, I'll do one that it's got built in. Where do experts think home prices are going?
Okay.
That's a good one, right? That's complex. Drop. 1% year-over-year decrease by fourth quarter. Fannie Mae says it'll... So this is good. It's showing here the sources on the right. All right, so what's the proposal? That people use this for news?
That it's the ethical search engine. Bill was originally going to start, and I haven't talked to them recently. I just got an email from them today about this. But he was originally going to start basically a licensing structure, but instead wants to prove concept by starting an ethical search engine.
So I'm trying to think how I would work this into my workflow.
It's going to have, by the basis of it, fewer sources.
Right. So what I do is, but most people don't do this, but I have an RSS feed with all the sources that I care about, and I scan them all.
All right, give me the latest news in AI. Let's see what that says.
That's a good one. Okay. What's the latest news in AI? So this might give me a summary of articles. That would be what I
don't know. Let's see.
There's the Anthropic story.
Other recent developments, chatbots such as corporate
What's the latest news AI is great. Why are toys getting pricier as tariffs kick in? 12% of the answer.
And that's an ad below. Penguin audio ad by program.
Embrace AI. Okay.
Is that? I haven't heard of that podcast.
But why did it use an article from the Boston Globe about toys for 12% of the answer? Where is that?
That's a good question.
How odd.
Yeah.
How odd.
Up above, it's in the shadow libraries of pirated content.
Oh, I bet it's like, Weird.
That's a mistake.
Yeah.
Right? That's not in this article. The article's not about Anthropic. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
we got to find a little bug. And by the way, this Boston Globe article is paywalled.
Yep, of course.
And it even says from the Washington Post. So that's no good. All right. It's gist.ai if you want to try it out. You went to the Google event, the little Google News.
I got my swag here. I'll admit it. I took swag. I was thirsty.
Chromebook
Swag
Plus.
taker.
So they announced this new Chromebook Plus.
Lenovo Chromebook Plus 14.
Is this the first of many, or is this the only one?
They had some cheaper ones there too, but this is the high end one. This is their new high end. So it's built on.
On this page, they imply that there will be more. The latest Chromebooks.
They had other Chromebook Pluses, but this is the high end one.
Right. This one's pretty impressive for about $800, $750.
It's built on a MediaTek Compenio Ultra, so it's an ARM, and it's the first high end that is fanless. Yay!
And they say 17 hours of battery life. It's an OLED screen, a 14-inch OLED screen, which is pretty impressive. Lenovo's done that before with other Chromebooks.
2.5 pounds, little tiny bit.
Oh, that's nice. That's light.
Half inch. And the important thing about this is the reason it fits on an AI show, besides I want to review units, is that it'll do two things that even other Chromebook Pluses will not do because it has this chip.
Yeah,
One is
this chip has AI capability.
Smart grouping, intelligently understands and organizes your open tabs and documents into logical groups. And then also AI image editing in the gallery app. So it'll do all the fancy photo stuff locally. It does it on the machine. And then I could care less about this one. Custom wallpapers.
Have you tried that out?
I did briefly in the at the event, but not enough.
So the Samsung is selling also a Chromebook Plus running on an Intel i3. If you didn't want the ARM processor,
that's what I have, and that's the one with the numeric.
Oh yeah,
keypad
and here's
that drives me
Google's own
nuts.
TWiT. They didn't announce a new Google Chromebook, did they?
No. So
really, this is all about
Lenovo.
This is all about the new one from Lenovo.
Yeah. And then they announced some other things that are generally true to Chromebook Pluses. You can get instant answers with select to search with Lens. You can get things done faster with text capture, which means that if you had an image that talked about an event and the text was an image, you could select that and it would know that this is an event and ask you appropriately, do you want to put this in your calendar? And it would parse the text in the image.
And I presume it's going to have Gemini on it and all that, right?
Yeah, and you get a free year of all the hoo-ha.
Yeah, plus 2 terabytes of storage.
Mm-hmm.
It has built-in 256 gigs of storage. It's that's a pretty good price for a fairly capable of. We don't know much about this MediaTek processor, but I've heard reports that it's a good processor. That it's finally there's something coming along besides.
Explain
Qualcomm.
to me, Leo. ARM is not a brand; it is a what?
It's an architecture.
Okay,
but it is a company.
It is a company.
So the history of ARM was it was started by Apple back in the Newton days, along with other partners, including, I think, the BBC Micro. And they wanted a very low power chip that they could put in the Newton with some capabilities. Apple did divest of ARM, but the ARM architecture, it continues to license and is the architecture behind all of Apple's processors for the iPhone and the Mac. It's also been licensed by Intel, although Intel doesn't really have much to show in the ARM space. And of course, Qualcomm makes ARM processors.
This is why this has 17 hours battery and fanless.
Yes. Yeah,
which is what I've been waiting for.
Are the integrated memory? Is it the same as like Macs? Is the memory integrated and all that stuff, or no? Is it still?
I bet it's not. That's expensive to do and makes a big SoC. So I'm gonna guess not. It's got 16 gigs of RAM.
SoC. What's SoC?
System on a chip. So.
Oh, thank you.
One of the reasons Apple has this kind of advantage with, especially with AI, is the RAM normally on a PC is in is separate chips. You've got your processor, you might have another processor for graphics, and you have RAM chips, and the data has to move along this bus, which is relatively slow. Apple, and by the way, game machines have done this for years, puts it all in one giant die, and it's like it's on the same chip. It's not quite, but it's on the same physical die. And so the interconnects are much faster. So having unified RAM is a very legit way of not only speeding up machines, but, and this is what's interesting with AI, giving AI access to the entire RAM. Normally on a PC, the AI is using the memory in the graphics processor. And that is very expensive. If you were going to get a 96 gigabyte Mac, that'd be a lot cheaper than a NVIDIA GPU with 96 gigabytes. And, it's comparably fast. So putting it on the system on a chip, this is, by the way most computer architectures are moving, the idea of getting more and more of those components integrated into a single die, a single system, it has real advantages. It's cheaper to make, it's faster.
All the modern Macs are built this way. That's why they're so fast.
That's right. That was the big selling point on the Mac. Now the Mac doesn't have NVIDIA. It doesn't support at all discrete graphics. So it has to make a virtue out of a necessity.
So that's my very brief report. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Are you going to buy one? You're going to, or try to get one for review?
I'd like to get a review unit to see. I have this Samsung now.
I'm very curious about performance. Again, because this is such an unknown processor. MediaTek is, historically been kind of a second tier processor company, but I've heard a lot of good things about it as an up and coming processor. It's their flagship SoC. Eight cores, one ARM Cortex, running at 3.62 gigahertz, three ARM X4s, 4X. So it's doing the other thing that Apple does, and now everybody's doing, is performance and efficiency cores. This is a 3 nanometer process. That is the state of the art TSMC process. So that usually, the smaller the process, the better the chip, the faster the chip, and the lower the power. Has an ARM Immortalis GPU. I've never heard of that.
I love the branding.
Yeah. It supports DDR5 RAM, so I suspect that's what you're going to get on the Lenovo.
They come to say it was up to 50 tops, but I have no idea.
This is the first device in it with it.
Yeah.
50 tops is good. That competes well with the Snapdragon. I will see. I don't know. I'm looking and seeing if anybody like LTT or somebody has done a review of it, but I don't see. I don't see. Yes, here's a Reddit.
I got to meet the Chromebook unboxed guy there, which made me thank him because I watch his stuff all the time.
This overkill chip opens the door to enhanced Gemini on Chromebooks. It's essentially the Dimensity 9400 flagship with a few changes.
People know this stuff.
Oh, I love geeks. I love geeks. It's interesting that they decided not to go with Qualcomm. I'm kind of surprised. Anyway, so ARM doesn't make chips. They don't have a fab. They're a design company.
No,
and they license their architecture to other companies, basically.
By the way, I think Craig Newmark says that he prefers nerd to geek.
Craig is wrong.
You on that?
I know why he does, because a geek is traditionally the guy who bites the head off a chicken.
Right.
So it's kind of icky.
Please explain more.
Like a carnival geek.
Did you see? There was a
Who
movie.
was biting heads off chickens at
Well,
Carnival?
people would pay good money to see it. The geek was somebody. He was like a wild man.
Were people really that bored back in the day that you'd pay money to
Entertainment
somebody
has come a long way.
bite a head off a chicken?
There was a movie. I'm trying to remember. They remade a classic '50s movie.
Would it be like one
carny.
bite, or would there be gnawing happening?
He lives. They
Paris,
put him in a
before the
cage.
internet, the world was very different.
This was a normal human being.
I'm just wondering, like, do you have to sharpen your teeth? Do they have like incredible jaw strength?
No,
I feel like there are bones happening in a chicken's neck.
No. Let me
that would
explain.
impede being able to do a one bite.
You understand that if you go to a carnival, you might see the bearded lady, the tattooed lady.
Yeah.
One of the things you might see at a carnival is like the wild man. You probably heard that, the wild man of Borneo, right? Is a sadly degraded human, often a drug addict, who for money or drugs has agreed to live in a cage in kind of squalor, and to impress the rubes, they'll throw a live chicken in there, pretending that's his.
This is perplexity. The geek, often described as a desperate or marginalized individual, would
Nightmare
be placed
Alley,
in a
that's
small arena or pit with live chickens. The performance involved the geek chasing, catching, and then biting off the head of a live chicken, sometimes swallowing it, and often drinking the blood as part of the act.
Okay, this hasn't answered my core question. Is it one bite or is it a gnawing action? Because
They're not.
one bite
Well,
is
they're trying to
impressive.
give the impression that the geek lives on these live chickens. The geek doesn't. But for the rubes, he goes, "Arr, arr," and bites the head off the chicken. The rubes go, "Oh!" And then they close the curtain and they give him some food. See the movie Nightmare Alley, which is actually the original 1947 film noir with Tyrone Power was incredible. You should absolutely see that first. They remade it in 2021. I thought it was okay. Cate Blanchett stars along with Bradley Cooper.
Does Bradley Cooper bite a head off a chicken?
No, but there is a very graphic geek scene. You will learn all you ever wanted to know about a geek. Anyway, my opinion, the nerd implies as somebody who is
Craig.
socially inept. And by the way, Craig might think of himself as both a geek and a nerd, but it's normally somebody who's socially inept.
No,
right?
nerd is someone who's smart. Nerd always has something to do with someone who knows a lot
that's the
about
geek.
something. No, that's nerd.
No, that's the nerd. See, this is
do
why I
think
asked.
that like both nerd and geek imply some sort of specialized technical knowledge. Geek in some way to me implies like usage of tools in an interesting way. Via nerd intrinsically implies to me specialized knowledge in one of many fields.
No, that's geek. Nerd is intellectual.
Nerd is primarily associated with intense interest and expertise in academic or intellectual pursuits such as math and science.
Bam.
Geek
But
is defined by
often
passion,
socially awkward or
enthusiasm
introverted.
for specific hobbies, interests, or subcultures, which can include.
Yeah, really, they're kind of interchangeable. I prefer geek because nerd implies some sort of social awkwardness, and a geek merely, to me, says you're passionate, in particular, about technology in our sphere. So I've always called our listeners and myself a geek because I'm really interested in technology. No, see, dweeb is more like nerd. Dweeb is pejorative. It's like you're a dweeb, you're a nerd, you're socially awkward, you're inept, you're an outcast, right? Geek does not imply that to me. Geek implies that you're just really good at technology and
So
like
Perplexity
to use it.
says that nerd, for example, is someone who spends weekends reading about quantum physics or programming for fun. A geek is someone who attends comic conventions or builds custom gaming PCs.
All right, maybe.
See, I agree with that.
Leo's both.
My definition was if you're a geek in high school, you're somebody who cares much more about what goes on above the neck than below the belt.
Can you ask your LLM of choice if we're considered geeks or nerds if we regularly spend 3 hours a week talking about AI for a live stream podcast?
Yes, I can.
I think it will just say neither. You're a podcaster.
Given what you know about me and my habits and the fact that I sit in front of a microphone hours a day talking about technology, would you say I'm more likely to be considered a geek or a nerd?
There's a pretty good Venn diagram in chat right now.
All right, let's go look at it.
Perplexity says you're either a geek or a nerd, but not a dweeb.
Given your habits, spending hours in front of a microphone discussing technology, staying current with tech trends, and engaging deeply with digital tools, you fit the classic profile of both a geek and a nerd, but with a subtle distinction.
Cop-out
A geek
answer.
is typically someone who is passionately enthusiastic about specific topics, especially technology, gadgets, or pop culture, and loves sharing that enthusiasm with others. Geeks are often seen as social within their interest areas, sometimes even evangelizing their favorite tech. A nerd, on the other hand, is usually defined by deep intellectual curiosity and expertise, often with an academic or analytical bent. Nerds may be more introverted, focusing intensely on learning, research, or mastery. Brain mode. Based on your habits, publicly talking about technology, likely podcasting or broadcasting, and embracing the latest tools, you're more likely to be seen as a geek. Geeks are known for their outward enthusiasm and community engagement around their passions, which matches the act of sharing knowledge and excitement about tech on air.
See, I think that's exactly how I put it.
Someone in the chat,
you're right, this Venn diagram is pretty good. I think
someone
that's
in the chat asked ChatGPT, I want a new, possibly made-up word that is loving towards a nerd, geek, or dweeb without the social stigma. And here's what the big and beautiful brain of ChatGPT said.
You are the evil clown of Middletown.
First one,
you're gonna like this.
Snorble. A soft, squishy word that feels like a hug. You adorable little Snorble, always quoting Star Trek.
Not bad.
Not bad. It's terrible, Leo.
Okay,
it's terrible.
I'm not a
2
Snorble.
Quibbins.
A what? A Quibbins?
A Quibbins. 3 Nuvvy.
You
newbie and lovey. So newbie.
Newbie. Glintle. From Gleam and Intel.
Like a sex part we didn't know we had.
My Glintle figured out the plot twist before the show even hinted it. It says as
I like this next one. This is my favorite.
Okay, 5 is dorkling, but that's pretty much a word. And 6, Whizbit, which I guess is the best of the bunch, but that's not saying much, is from Wizard and Bit. The example sentence is, that's my Whizbit, always casting spells with spreadsheets.
I think we have enough words for these kinds of people. Yeah. I consider myself a geek because I am not I'm not socially inept. I'm not closed in, but I'm an intellectual. I think I do think about stuff and I talk about, but I like to talk about stuff.
You do? I don't think about anything. It's just empty void in there.
Do you think about quantum physics though?
Not when I'm not reading about Oppenheimer. Oh, I have been thinking about string theory.
Do you program in Common Lisp in your spare time? Do you ever shave the Emacs yak? So, but that's interesting that Craig, who I think is socially kind of inept, yes?
Well, no, he contends he is.
Yeah.
That's his argument.
I think he might be a nerd.
Craig has a lot of
there's definitely overlap.
Hotel grade pancake and waffle makers, and I think that makes him a social butterfly.
He says he doesn't own any.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, I thought he owned multiple.
He just takes pictures of them at the hotel.
He takes pictures so often. I thought
we've been spreading. I've said that fact to like 3 people.
Oh no!
This is how these things start.
Sorry,
you're as bad as AI.
All right, we're going to take I do think about ancient Rome every day. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, picks of the week.
I think about Gutenberg every day.
Do you really?
Well, yeah.
How about Schmidhuber? Schmidhuber.
Excuse you.
I just like saying Jürgen Schmidhuber.
You got to get the umlaut in there.
Jürgen.
No, that's more Swedish. Jürgen Schmidhuber.
Yeah,
Jürgen Schmidhuber.
There are picks of the week coming up next. You're watching Intelligent Machines. Jeff Jarvis, Paris Martineau. We're glad you're here, and we hope you will consider, if you enjoy this show, showing your support by joining Club TWiT. What do you get? Ad-free versions of this show and every show we do. Lots of shows that we don't do in public. In fact, I wanted to tell the world to stay tuned because after this show, our own Scott Wilkinson in the club will do his regular Q&A on home theater. So if you're in the club, you go into the Discord and Scott will be talking directly to the Discord for his Home Theater Geeks show. And we're doing a very geeky / nerdy thing on Friday. We're bringing back Stephen Witt. Remember, he was on talking about AI a couple of weeks ago. But I noticed when we interviewed him, he'd also written a book about how music got free, about digital music, about the creations of the MP3, about Napster and music piracy and how it affected the music industry. And I really wanted to talk about that. So we're bringing Stephen Witt back. He was a great guest on this show. He'll be joining us Friday, June 27th at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. But that, again, is club only. We'll stream it live, but club only after the fact. And then I thought, well, this would be a great time to have one of my best friends. He's a vinyl expert. He's a collector of vinyl records. Now, that's nerdy. He runs a YouTube channel called Mazzy's Music, Norman Maslov. So we're going to have back-to-back talking about music and how music has changed and then how it's not changed this Friday. That's, again, club only. We have our AI users group a week from Friday. That's going to be fantastic. Always good stuff going on there. Chris Marquardt's photo thing. We're still working on booking Stacey Higginbotham for a book club. Micah's Crafting Corner coming up. The club is a great place to hang out in the Discord, to watch the shows, and most of all, to show your support for what we do. If you'd like to join, I'd love to have you. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit to learn more. Twit.tv/clubtwit. And I think we still have the 2-week free trial. So if you're at all skeptical and you just want to watch those shows and not pay for it, go right now. Twit.tv/clubtwit. Right here, time for our picks of the week. Let's kick things off with Paris Martineau.
I've got a very Leo targeted pick, which
good.
A video of Google VO generated sinkhole videos came across my feed. And
this is for both of us. It's for you and for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's for both of us. I think you should
that's terrible.
You got to listen with the sound, though.
Oh, wait a minute. This is yeah. I'll turn on the sound.
Describe to people. There's a
sinkhole on 4th Street, which unfortunately has already taken the lives of 2 individuals.
There is a wheelchair user that goes directly in the sinkhole. Then a person on a bike completely swallowed by the sinkhole.
Another one.
Today we're looking at the city's ongoing efforts to repair crumbling infrastructure, but as you can see, some issues
are more apparent
than others.
Authorities are urging residents to avoid the area entirely.
A truck.
As you can see behind me.
Today we're on Elm Street examining the city's ongoing efforts to address critical infrastructure issues.
A woman doing a full backflip from the sinkhole back into the sinkhole.
Oh, so these are brilliant. These are all AI generated.
Is a word you could use. They are very funny.
They're hysterical.
They're hysterical. I just saw it and thought of you because I know that you love VO videos.
Well, obviously, when I see something like this, I think, oh, that's somebody who spent a week prompting, reprompting to get those. And the humor comes from the human, not the AI. Nevertheless, that is very good.
It's pretty good.
I could watch that for hours. And somebody has 1.4 million views on X.
Jeez. A lot of people have watched it for hours. My other pick is I'm stealing a photo from Jeff, but I was also there. I visited, I think we chatted about this before the show. I visited Salt Hanks this weekend, which was popping. And I just wanted to recommend that anybody in the tri-state area
I'm pretty proud of that photo.
That's a great photo.
It has a composition.
It's such a good photo. The composition is great. Jeff took a bunch of photos that put my iPhone to shame because then I went in and took photos as well. Whatever Android phone you're using, Jeff, it takes great photos.
The 6? The old 6?
It was
Can
good.
I show you what I did with it in AI?
Oh, please.
Go off my screen for a second because I don't want to show all my photos, but I fed it to, I think I fed it to Chat GPT or Perplexity, I'm not sure, and asked it to cartoonize it. And I think it did a pretty good job.
So cute.
Oh.
Isn't that cute? It's really the same
It's
picture.
adorable.
Yeah. The only thing it got wrong is it didn't put Salt Hank on his hat. So I said, hey, can you make the hat say Salt Hank? And it fixed it perfectly.
Yeah, it also messed up the prices, but that's all right.
That's actually good. I didn't want anybody to see the prices.
Yeah,
a little expensive.
They're a bit expensive, yeah. But so Jeff had originally gone for, I think, actually opening day and sent our little
thank you,
Intelligent
Jeff.
Machine group chat.
There was a line.
Photos of the huge line.
Line was down the street, and Salt Hanks is right next to the famous John's Pizzeria. And they had their own little barrier there, and
I love it because he's taking advantage of the existing barriers from John's.
But look here, because in front of the barrier, there's 4 people. That's the entire line for John's. Hank's line is going all the way down the block.
So this
fantastic.
The people with the suitcase, they're waiting for John's.
They're waiting for John's.
And then the people on the right going down the block, that's waiting to get into Salt Hanks.
Are for Salt Hanks.
Bleecker at Jones Street. In the West Village.
So I came by the next day because my mother was in town visiting, and so we were walking around the area. And I said, "We got to stop at Salt Hanks." It was early, like right after they opened, so there wasn't a line yet. But I walk in, and even though it wasn't that busy, there was Hank sitting there with some woman who'd brought in his cookbook for him to sign. He was surrounded by people with cameras. I couldn't even get a word, and I ended up talking to a friend of his. Didn't get his name, but I think it's some friend of his from Michigan that now lives in California that Hank had flown out just for the opening and gave him a shirt and was like, work for this. And he was like, it's crazy. The New York Times was here yesterday. It just seemed like a great crew of people, and everybody was really excited.
I'm very proud of my boy. He's exceeded his pop for sure.
Is he exhausted?
Yeah, but he's enjoying it. He said,
"Yes,
it's funny." Yeah, he said, "Now I feel like I'm a real cook now," because he was a celebrity. He was an influencer cook. He wasn't a real cook. And he said, "I really should have done this before I started the TikTok channel because I didn't know what it took, but now I do." And so he feels like, now I'm really a chef. He's really loving it. He's really loving it. And it's been very affirming for him, of course, because it's Salt Hanks, right? It's got his name on it. Yeah.
My last thing is I am crowdsourcing potential recommendations for where I should go on a 1 to 2 week road trip next month because I officially have gotten a new job.
Yeah. Wait a minute. You buried the lead there.
I did bury the lead. I can't announce what it is yet publicly, but I do start at the end of July. I can tell you guys.
It's a great job. It's a great
I'll tell you, it's a great job.
I'm so happy
I'll talk
for
to you. Guys
you.
when we're off the air. I'm incredibly happy for me too. I'm also incredibly happy that I don't start till end of July.
So you got a 2-week vacation.
I got quite a few weeks, and I want to do something. I think I want to go on like a little solo road trip.
It's not enough to see the evil clown of Middletown. You want more?
I mean, I do. I'm greedy. I want to see the evil clowns all around the U.S. But I think what I might do is I might fly to either SF or Seattle and then spend like a week or so, maybe more going between the two and like going on various hikes and visits. Kind of in the Pacific Northwest and NorCal. I'm also open to other ideas. If anybody
come
has
see us.
I've always wanted to do the train across Canada.
I'll take you to our best restaurant in town.
I will say the Petaluma of it all was kind of interesting. I was like, I could drive by.
Oh, we would love to see you.
People in there. But if anybody has any recommendations of like cool hikes in that area, all I know is that what I want to do on this trip is I want to hike the redwoods, and I also want to visit the towns where Twin Peaks was filmed. And I feel like I can fill in the rest while I'm there.
If you flew to San Francisco, came to visit us because it's north.
Yeah.
And rent a car and kept driving up the coast, you would see. Actually,
I know, that's why I was thinking is I could kind of see a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I want to go to maybe what's it called? Tillamook Cheese Factory.
Okay, go to the Tillamook Cheese Factory.
I want to go in Portland.
What you want to do? Okay.
Days. I don't know. It just was on the way there. I enjoy cheese. I haven't done any research yet.
Showtime.
We have some good cheese places in Petaluma.
This is my call to the wild. If anybody has any recommendations of things on that coast that are nice to do, let me know.
There's one. Well, the problem is south of us is Big Sur, which you would love driving through.
Yeah,
there's Hearst Castle south of us too. Is amazing.
Which I never have been to.
You could just drive up
I love Hearst Castle.
Drive down or up.
I mean, that's the thing.
Beautiful.
Is my current plan
maybe
is
start
just drive
in LA
up
and drive
kind
up
of
one.
do whatever.
I can't go south on one
because of the bridges.
You're on the edge.
But you could. Paris, you'd love it, and it's
she's
beautiful.
brave, unlike me.
And you'd see redwoods, but you also see Big Sur, which is like nothing else in the country.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah, it's well worth seeing. Hearst Castle is incredible.
What is it? Just a castle?
So William Randolph Hearst, when he was you should see it because he was the press mogul. He created yellow journalism.
He's Citizen Kane.
He's Citizen Kane. And he built his Xanadu, as they call it, and wrote in Citizen Kane, near Santa Barbara. It's on the California coast. It's incredible. The Hearst estate gave it to the state of California, so they run it as a kind of museum / place
the family
to visit.
still has some property there, I think.
Yeah, I've been to the Hearst. I was friends in my youth
Yeah.
with William Randolph Hearst III. They kept the horse ranch, so he got Arabians right next to it. I've ridden horses through Hearst Castle because they still have rights to ride the horses around. So he still has a big Arabian ranch there. The Hearst Corporation owns a lot of stuff. California. They are just as important as they ever were, I think. But you should see it because of the history. That's the first
castle right now. That's crazy.
You'd be seeing the original press mogul, and he's got this big long table in the middle, and it's got ketchup on it, and it's great. It's hysterical.
You watched Citizen Kane, I assume.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. And then you could do Big Sur because you could go north from there. You do Big Sur.
Big Sur, I know that from my computer.
Yeah, you would.
Operating
it's beautiful. You could see. You could see.
You can go to Cupertino where you're.
The Monterey Bay Aquarium is great there.
Yeah.
Keep
yeah,
going
no,
on
I mean,
up.
I think there's like a million different things to do. I'm kind of excited.
If you've
I'm
never
kind of
been to California, then yes, there's a ton of things.
I mean, I ostensibly was in California from years like 0 to 8, but that doesn't really count. The only other times I've been to California.
And you want to see LA? You should go see LA too. You should.
LA isn't strong on my list, to be honest.
Okay.
Nor is, frankly, the city of San Francisco, which I'm there often. I'm more interested in big, beautiful vistas, like.
Well, start in San Francisco and go north.
Weird things, or like Hearst Castle, definitely something.
I mean, the wine country is wonderful.
Wine country, fantastic.
Taking a glider after you've had enough wine.
Ooh,
or a balloon.
It's fun.
That's very fun.
I did that in Calistoga.
Yeah.
And my wife at the time, I'm getting in, and she said, "Are you insured?" I said, "No, bye." And it was actually a bad time to go. It was the last flight of the day before they canceled it due to heavy winds.
Ooh.
So
I assume it's just like the Soarin' exhibit at Disneyland, right?
Yeah, just like that. A little bumpier.
You can
but
have
anyway,
a mud bath.
Huh?
You can get a mud bath.
Oh, the mud baths are great. Go to
really?
Oh,
what is it?
But there's only one place to go if you go to a mud bath. It's Indian Springs, the original resort. Because so there's kind of an upscale one called Solage where they give you a little container of mud and you're supposed to rub it on yourself. That is not a mud bath. If you go to Indian Springs, you get in these 1920s tiled tubs that are filled with volcanic mud. And the attendant comes over with a shovel and covers the rest of you. You sink down to it. It's very warm. The farther down you go, that's where it's heated by so this is a volcanic area. So it's heated by the underground, what do they call it? Steam. So it can be very hot when you go, but as you dig down into the mud, but it's fun. And you lie there for a half hour. And you get enervated, and then they hose you down. It's a little intimate. Anyway, they hose you down, and then you get a massage, and you get what they call a blanket wrap, and it's wonderful. And then they have a pool that's heated by the springs. That's incredible.
Oh, that sounds delightful. You said Indian Springs?
Yeah, I'll send you a list of things that would be fun for you to do. But you got to come see us, and we will take you to the best restaurant in town.
All right, I'll add to
What is
that? What is that restaurant?
Well, it used to be Table Culture Provisions. They're going for their Michelin star, and they will get it. They're very, very good. But it's a little frou-frou. There's a guy from France who had a restaurant in San Francisco, but he's come to Petaluma. He loves Petaluma. He grew up in France, and he makes his favorite French dishes. And it's called Brigitte Bistro. It's a bistro. And they're sloppy. They're not, TCP, it's like tweezers stuff, right? This one is like, you come in and Nick, the chef, goes, "Hey, it's good to see you. How are you?" If you can make it for July 14th, you'll be there for Bastille Day.
Oh.
And they have a lot of fun on Bastille Day.
I bet.
It's so much fun. And we go there every other week because we love it so much. They have incredible food.
Escargot and marrow bone.
Yeah, the marrow is incredible.
Salmon gravlax au agrumes.
The coquille Saint-Jacques, their scallops are the best I've ever had. Their dauphinois, their scallop potatoes are amazing. Are we still doing a show?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, you're watching Intelligent Machines.
Oh, my God. Where do we
crave.
go? You can edit this all out, Benio. I'm sorry. Oh, my God. I completely lost track of it. Time and
Saucisson lyonnaise.
Yeah, the Lyonnaise stuff is great, but they also have specials. Some of the best food I've ever eaten. And the dessert that you have to have is called île flottante, which is a meringue floating in caramel with cashews. It's unbelievable. You'll think you've died and gone to heaven.
Fantastic.
And Nick is amazing. He's a really wonderful guy.
Humboldt fog goat cheese.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's a lot of cheese manufacturer in there.
I mean, that's the thing is I want to go to all the cheese places. I
Oh
could.
my
I
God.
have to go to a whole subsection of the tour.
We have some
of the trip.
very, very famous, very good.
The last time I went to Point Reyes, all the
That's the one.
cheese shops were closed, and I was so mad.
Yeah, Point Reyes is the one. Yeah, that's where some of the best cheese in the world is made. Yeah. Okay, well, you know where you want to go. Point Reyes is nice. If you've been there, you've done.
I mean, I was
pretty good
there
stuff.
for only a couple of. I timed it wrong. It was like late in a Sunday at some point where the sun was setting. I messed it up. I need to go again.
I
These
will
are all
send
the
you
things
some recommendations,
Thank
but
you.
but I can go on and on and on as I obviously have.
I mean, you're the perfect person to ask.
I
Same
want to
with
give you
Mr.
something that you
SF.
can listen to as you go on your road trip. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
This is called Wiki Radio. It is random
Oh, I love this.
audio from Wikipedia. So there's audio on Wikipedia. All of it is public domain, and you just press the button. It's always weird.
Oh, yeah.
It only goes for a little while. You see the little bar there. So that's pretty good. But you're going to get music.
Monkey Warhol. Let your hammer ring.
This is great. This is huge
This is a
for
spoken
me.
Wiki News article from wikinews.org, the free news source, recorded by Neil Carmichael. Block of flax collapses and Aleppo killing 11.
Okay, well.
Se llama Tatiana, pero no es mexicana, es guatemalteca.
You'll never stop.
Die Wacht am Rhein.
I can play this on the piano, by the way.
Do it.
I don't have a piano here.
You got to get one little tiny keyboard.
Anyway, highly recommend it. It's from Monkey On, and apparently he does lots of things like this.
बालभास्करः एकवारं वर्गे कलायस्य
I just love. So I used to, when I was a kid, do shortwave radio, and that's exactly what it sounds like. You just tune down the dial, and you don't know what you're going to get. It's weird stuff. So that's my pick of the week. Jeff, you've got something I think you would like. This sounds good.
What?
I don't know. Whatever you pick.
I don't have much.
I like all of your picks.
All right, we can do the tennis robot.
Tennis robot, it is. World's first tennis robot.
Here and actually play tennis and practice with the tennis robot.
So it volleys with you and catches your ball.
That's
and
amazing.
Spits a ball back at you.
Whoa.
That's pretty impressive. It doesn't look. It looks like it's not hitting it too hard, though, right?
It doesn't look like
looks
it's moving
lobs.
particularly fast.
Yeah. See how lobby they are? But I guess it's good practice.
Yeah, and you don't have to pick up all the damn balls then.
Nice.
You could probably configure it, right, to do other stuff.
I would imagine.
Throw it.
The real problem is you have to hit the ball into the basket each time.
No,
but I guess that's
it catches it.
If you're, yeah, but
It catches it. It's
it
moving.
moves around.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's moving around.
So even if you hit it poor ball, it will get
See,
it.
apparently so, yeah.
I want to see it
Watch.
try and play against me. A very bad.
That's
tennis
what. That's the secret sauce is that you don't have to hit the basket. Wow. Are you a good tennis player?
Oh, I'm
Maris?
so bad. That's why I'd like to see it play against me. I'm sure.
That would be fun. Again, you see, we don't need human partners any longer. We can just AI is our new friend.
Date and marry our AI partners. Play tennis with robots.
I'm marrying the local tennis pro. Oh, that's nice.
Wow.
Well, there are some downsides. I have to oil him every 3 weeks.
His basket gets really ratty.
Okay, that's good. I did hope you were going to do the great PowerPoint panic of 2003.
Okay, let's do that one. And then I want to say who's going to tell Zuck, but we'll get there.
Oh, so what's the story here?
So the great power is that there was a ready. Are you ready, Benito? Are you ready? Are you ready here?
Hey, Benito, are you ready?
Even PowerPoint caused a. There we go.
Houston, we have a problem.
That's an appropriate one because it was NASA.
Go ahead. Yes.
You remember in 2003, the great tragedy, the Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated on its way into touchdown, and all 7 astronauts aboard were killed. The cause of the disaster, a piece of insulating foam that had broken loose, but really the problem was over a complex PowerPoint slide. Engineers had known about and inappropriately, according to The Atlantic, discounted the wing damage long before the attempted re-entry. The flaws in their analysis were buried in a series of arcane and overstuffed computer presentation slides that were shown to NASA officials. It's easy to understand how a senior manager might read this PowerPoint slide and not realize it addresses a life-threatening situation. This was in the report after the disaster.
From the board, right?
The board explained that the board views the endemic use of PowerPoint briefing slides instead of technical papers as an illustration of the problematic methods of technical communication.
By the start of 2003, the phrase death by PowerPoint had well and truly entered the popular lexicon. A Yale statistician named Edward Tufte, is it Tufte or Tufte?
Tufte.
Tufte was the first to take it literally. That spring, Tufte published a rip-roaring broadside titled The Cognitive Style of PowerPoint, including his analysis of the software's role in the recent Columbia disaster.
He is a very famous, brilliant guy on information presentation. Actually I think he still does it. He tours around the country doing lectures on information presentation. Has a very good book all about it.
Known as the Da Vinci of data.
Yeah. Yes. He's really good.
This had to be terrible news for McKinsey consultants everywhere. Really shook them to their core.
His book is called the Visual Display of Quantitative Information.
Wired
but it's beautiful.
Ran an excerpt from his pamphlet in September 2003 beneath the headline, "PowerPoint is evil."
Yeah.
New York Times, of course, summarized it saying, "PowerPoint makes you dumb." Colin Powell had used the software to present evidence of Iraq's weapons of mass destruction.
Yikes.
So I actually agree with this. I think PowerPoint has been the ruin of logic and discourse. And everybody summarizes crap into 3 bullets the way AI is now summarizing every single news story out there. And I think it's ruined paragraphs.
I would argue the Gen Z equivalent, and especially Gen Alpha equivalent of this, is Instagram slideshows.
Yes.
Now everything is just
I think Instagram is evil. Although I enjoyed your spring slideshow, Paris. I quite enjoyed that. I thought that was quite good.
It's the only good slideshow. The ones that I do.
Interestingly, if you go to Edward Tufte's website, he says, "I wish to sell licenses of my work for LLM AI AR use." They're all copyrighted, but if you wish, you could buy them.
The writer asked Tufte what he thought of his critique of PowerPoint, how it had aged. True to form, he answered with a 16-page PDF compiled specially for me.
My dad, growing up, was a fan, and he had because my dad wrote books, and he was a professor of geology, so he needed ways to express information, often graphically, and he had a really beautiful. I don't know if it was from Tufte's book or somewhere else, but a beautiful map of Napoleon's march on Russia that showed the attrition of the army I wonder if I. Oh yeah, here it is. That showed it's an ancient map that showed the attrition of the army as they got closer and closer, and winter got worse and worse. And I think Tufte uses this as an example of information displayed in a way that is really graspable. It's quite a good. This is a English translation of it, and they started with an army of 422,000, got to Moscow with 100,000, got home with 4,000, and this is the temperature below it. Anyway, so there are ways to communicate information graphically, but PowerPoint does not encourage the best uses.
So then, finally, line 111. Who wants to tell Zuck?
Oh no. Zuck has his new glasses, and he thinks they're really cute. New Oakley Meta glasses on the way. Excited to collab with another iconic brand like Oakley. The future of performance AI glasses.
I don't know. What do you think, folks? Is it?
I think they fit his personality.
Paris?
Doesn't he look like just exactly like the kind of surfer dude you'd run into at a, Redondo Beach clam shack? I don't know. He
wants to be a surfer dude. He's not.
It's just
he can ride one of those boards.
Frankly, it's
all right. So here's the question:
it's not significantly worse than his other glasses that he wears all the time, which are also Meta Ray-Bans, which just look dorky.
Well, so that was my question: Is this geek, nerd, or dweeb?
Dork.
I might be buying dork.
It's
which,
dork.
Yeah, actually has a less savory real meaning, but we won't go.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Look it up.
I
In the
disavow
dictionary.
everyone. I disavow everyone and everything. Just to be clear.
Let me just put it this way: there are a surprisingly large number of words in the language to represent penises.
Mm-hmm.
Dork is a particular.
I saw one week I had a schmuck joke, and it was the title, and then suddenly it went out at the last minute.
Yeah.
Was that why?
Probably. Okay. Schmuck. Yeah, that's another bad word.
Yeah, it is.
Yiddish has
also
a
means
lot
jewelry.
of words.
I
keep using Yiddish words that turn out to be penis.
Yeah, schmuck as well.
They think dork came from a Norwegian dialect word dorg, meaning a dim-witted or slovenly person. But others also think it's just a bowdlerized form of the other D word. I don't know. I'm going to probably buy these Oakley Metas. I hate to say it.
Why? The ones with the red lenses?
Well, no, I'm not going to get the red lens.
That's the expensive ones. That's
the white. You want the white Oakleys?
I don't know. I don't. It's not that I want them.
Are you trying to match them to your hair?
Oh, okay. Now you've just gone. Okay, we're now taking you to McDonald's.
Okay, that's fair.
You're getting in. You're getting in and out. Sorry.
I do think honestly, In and Out. I've never had In and Out.
You know what? We'll take you to In and Out the next day.
Overrated, but okay.
It is overrated. What's the best hamburger?
American
burger. Exactly.
I need to have
when are you coming to New York, Leo?
Probably next month. I got to come and see Hank. Yeah.
Well, we got to go to Burger America. I went there again, and it's just...
Now, in one of your pictures, I saw a guy that looked like the Burger America guy at Salt Hanks. That wasn't him, was it?
No.
No.
I don't think so. Show it to me.
I don't know. We got to end this show. I can't go through. I can't do that anymore. Maybe it wasn't yours. Maybe it was from somebody else. I don't know. I will show you. I will show you a picture of my wife with a giant chicken, though. This is the kind of excitement you're going to get, Paris.
Listen,
when you come to town.
That's exactly what I'm looking for. I will be opening the roadsideamerica.com subsection that is like a tour of giant objects that you can interact with.
I worked with a woman, Cammie Blackstone. She used to do a show for us called Munchcast, who was a specialist in roadside attractions. And for our radio show, she went all over the country, stopping at these crazy giant things and weird things. They're all giant ball of twine.
Did she trip the what's it called, America's Fruit Basket? Which is just specifically a subsection of Roadside America that is just all the largest fruit statues in America.
Could be. she managed to hit a lot of the high points. I don't know where we got the budget for that, but it was fun. Anyway, I think it was called On the Road with Cammie, something like that. Anyway, we have finally, unbelievably, after 3 hours and 7 minutes, come to the conclusion of this show. You know what? Honestly, folks, if you're not getting the 3 hour, 7 minute version, but instead some Bowdlerized version that Benito made, ask for the original, the full length.
Ask for the cut where Leo goes in about his favorite local restaurants.
By the way, I will agree with you, John Ashley. Gott's Roadside, pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. That's in, where's that? That's in Napa.
Someone says, I thought after the pick of the week, the show was supposed to end.
Oh, you thought.
No.
Oh, no. This is the show that never ends.
We haven't even gotten to the Windows Weekly bourbon yet.
Ever. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got to do my bourbon pick now.
Yeah, that's going to be another 3.5 hours.
You know, Leo, that's what we always ask when we come on. We ask Benito.
If they started whiskey.
Have they started the bourbon yet?
No, he's like, no, not yet.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'll
go get a tortilla.
For a while, there was an initiative here to get the shows down to 2 hours. I have failed miserably this week.
2 weeks.
Yeah, it didn't last too long. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We do Intelligent Machines roughly round about 2 o'clock Pacific to 7, 8 p.m., whenever we're done. No, usually 2 to 5 p.m. Pacific. That's 5 to 8 Eastern, 2100 UTC. You can watch us live if you're in the club, in the Discord, but also on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, Kick. We stream them live everywhere. We chat with you live from all of those platforms. So please do, if you want, watch live. After the fact, download a show at twit.tv/IM. There's audio and video. There's also a link there to the YouTube channel. If you want to, for some strange reason, share a clip of this show with a friend, help spread the word. And yes, you can subscribe in your favorite podcast player, or as they say, wherever podcasts are, wherever you download your podcasts from. Now, there's no good way to say that. Wherever you download.
From whence you download your podcasts.
What did they say on PBS?
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Are
That's what they say on NPR. They say from
whence cometh your podcasts.
From whence your podcast
Look out yonder the horizon.
All right, let's wrap it up, guys. Let's
wrap it up. The light
now even Benito is saying wrap it up. Subscribe. Get it automatically. And leave a great review. Paris next week. Find some good reviews you can read on the air.
Great.
That's your assignment. And we thank you all for putting up with us. It's a lot of fun to do this show. And as you can see, we kind of enjoy each other. We'll see you next time. I hope you enjoy it on Intelligent Machines. Bye-bye.